a real friend is standing up for you when you're not around. And I've had that happen with Paul Rosenberg stood up for me. Proof used to always stand up for me. And you build it's an endearing term for a friend to do that. So
all right, guys, back for his third appearance. Close friend of mine, good brother, Mr. Mark Doughboy Hicks in the house again. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good, man. How you doing, Panda?
I'm good, man. It's good to see you, bro. You've
Good
been
to see
busy
you,
out
man.
here, bro. You've been busy.
Man, just keeping it busy, man. Keeping it busy. That's what you got to do in this game.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, I hate to start off on a slumber kind of note, but last weekend was the 20th anniversary of Proof's passing, and we recently had a kind of like a documentary montage get put out, right? Can you talk about that? You was in it, you was talking.
Oh yeah, it was so great, man, because what happened, it was well, I want to correct you, it was a mini doc because the producer of it, he's a morning show host on here on Fox 2 Detroit, Josh Landon. And one of the guys I used to work with, he was part of the Dirty Management, the company me and Rico Shelton founded, Mikey Eckstein. He called me, he said, hey man, it's a guy, Josh Landon from Fox 2. And of course I knew Josh Landon by, him being on Fox 2. And I was like, oh yeah. And I'm really, really, really anal when it comes to Proof and his legacy. Cause it's not a lot of people who knew Proof who really guards his legacy. And I'm cool with, probably like Sharonda Holt and Proof wife. She's like a sister of mine. His his daughters and his sons, I consider them, to be honest, a uncle. And so I'm very, very, very guarded. And when Josh Landon called me, he just said, hey man, I just want to have a 20-minute, 25-minute phone conversation. And he really was passionate about this project. And Josh is a little bit younger than me and Mikey, and he really had did his work. And he put up the guardrails of what would happen. And he gave he kind of like gave the layout of the documentary. And I was like, I'm down. So we set up a time. My time was at Trick Studio, and Trick was a subject that day. Our former mayor Kwame Kilpatrick of Detroit was a subject that day. Mikey was a subject. Mikey Eckstein, I believe, was a subject, and I was a subject during that day of recording. And man, we just, before we started rolling, we just started talking about great things about Proof. It was almost like a mini reunion, just bringing up stuff about Proof. And man, each of us did our own segment. And wow, it just was very inspiring. I mean, it was inspiring just sitting there, you know, before I started recording, that's when, before we we started talking, we was talking about remembrance of Proof. So that really was inspiring for my segment. And of course, the segments are cut short, and I spoke a lot more about Proof, and maybe it might be an extended documentary. I don't know what Fox is going to do with the footage, but they do have a whole arsenal because Fox owns Foxo, Fox owns Tubi. So hopefully it's extended, but I'm just proud of what they presented.
Yeah, I thought it was a great mini documentary, man. It was amazing, you know. It was great to see Proof and his Proof's kids and his wife and everything. It's crazy to think that it's really been 20 years. On that day, was it hard for you? Like, how was it for you?
Well, a person I know texts me, and they text me like at the end of March, and they said, I know this is gonna be a tough few weeks for you. And I said, what did that mean? I was looking at the text, and then of course I was cognizant of the date, but my dad's birthday, who's passed, is March 29th. Proof passed April 11th. And then my brother last year died April 21st at a pretty young age. When he my older brother. And I really started thinking about that. And she kind of knew me. She knows me. And she knows I told her like last year, I was like, man, this getting back to back to back to back. I was like, man, I'm like April is fucked up for me. And I'm superstitious. So when I really started thinking about that, I was like, damn. And the proof just every year I just think about him. But man, I take that back. I think about Proof every day. He was a great friend, and it, and so every day I think about him. He's on my mind every day. When you have like a person who came in with you in the game, the music industry game, it's devastating. You know when he died, I lost a piece of me. It's a quote that when you in a thunderstorm, the thunderstorm is less you have less of a thunderstorm if somebody is beside you. And you can imagine us coming from a old ghost town, Detroit, when the music industry had left us in the 70s. And we these two young knuckleheads, because I met Proof when I was 17. He was 17 too. And you can imagine in a Midwest town, and we're gambling our whole lives away, i.e. career, about being in the music industry, but we just had so much gusto. We fed off of each other in terms of like trying to make it in this game. So when you don't have that person, now it was other people around me, other friends, but it wasn't somebody who was like, man, I'm gonna be a successful person in the music industry. You not at that time. I'm talking about at 17. Of course, like I met Paul like Rosenberg, maybe like 3 years after that, 3 or 4 years. But we talking about the mid 90s. And of course, when I met Proof, ironically, I met via Proof on a three-way call. I think we talked about that
Right.
the first, yeah. And so we just kept building and building and building. It was almost we were not me, but Proof was building a Marvel universe of dedicated people that was just like, fuck it, we gonna do this. We gonna do this shit. And that's what people don't understand about Proof. It's funny, man, because last night, one of my one of my friends, he out of nowhere, because that clip, that mini documentary, the Proof 20-year mini documentary went viral. And he called me and he seen it like on another page, like his girl shared it with him. He was like, I didn't know, man, I didn't know. And he really is not in the music industry. He's more in the business. He's just into like business. He's a businessman. He was like, man, that guy Proof, man, I didn't know he was that part. I didn't know he was that good of a freestyler. And I kind of got offended because I was like, dude, he wasn't just a freestyler. People are really paying homage to a unelected mayor of Detroit and an organizer, a union boss. And I had to like be like, man, he don't really understand. And he's a little bit younger than me, and that's why we continue his legacy. And a lot of more, it's more to be extended. We're working every shit, I would say every day. We working every day on expanding Proof, and his sons, especially Deshaun, his eldest son, he's working on a documentary too, a longer documentary about some of the underbelly of how they classify Proof murder. that they was like, the guy like got off on self-defense. And from the story, the real story, I don't want to get into legalities of it, but that's not the truth of it. Proof was murdered and that guy got off scot-free.
Yeah, it don't make any sense. We've kind of already touched on it in our first interview, but like if it was self-defense, why would you dump the body outside the club and like, like all that stuff that it was even discussed in the mini documentary a little bit.
Right.
But I wanted to ask you, has the last 20 years gone by really fast? Like it was surprising to you that, wow, it's really been 20 years?
Yeah, time is flying, man. In life, I don't know. I was watching a documentary about that. When you have, I guess, as adults, I'm just talking about in general, as adults, when you are learning to read, walk, learn about life, I guess time go by slow, but the older you get, all this. The 50 states in America. You know how to bank it. Banking. You pretty much understand life. And they said that's where life speeds. Man, life speeds by. I mean, it don't even seem 20 years. I remember the day of Proof died. I remember the last time I seen him. I mean, all of that. It almost, to be honest, Pan, it almost seemed like it was 2 years ago. And we talking about quality time. It seems like it happened 2 years ago. Yep.
That's crazy, man. You posted to your stories 20 years ago today, Detroit and hip hop lost a lot. I lost one of my best friends and inherited years of nightmares and depression. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh yeah, it's the window of shoulda, coulda, woulda, because Proof was basically he was restating the whole Motown legacy, and we went that way. And his engine, he was the conduit of it. Because just a quick breakdown of like the Detroit, when Berry Gordy had Motown, and Motown was a hot hit records, and you had some rock labels, but Motown had a big office building in downtown Detroit. Berry Gordy was the conduit back then. And then when the 70s came, he wanted to expand. And so what did he do? I want to get in Hollywood. I want to start films. And he worked the deal out to start, put movies out with Diana Ross and some of his key people at Motown. And he started backing black movies in the 70s. And of course, he couldn't really have two masters. I'm not degrading Mr. Gordy, but he had to move all his resources to California because he was making this big Hollywood bid. And all of those buildings and all of that talent and executives, they moved out to the West Coast. And when they moved to the West Coast, it really left Detroit dry. And so as us growing up, it was even, that got to it left a big void. And that's one of the reasons Proof, like, he had different iterations of name, but he stuck with Proof because Proof, he was showing that it's still Proof, it's still music. The music scene in is still alive in Detroit, or per se Michigan per se. And that was one of the things. So he wanted to build, and every day, and it's a trip. Like at 17, he was coming up with a master plan. He was like, well, how could we get on this radio station? Or how could we get on MTV? Or how could we do this? And he would ask crazy questions, but they were intelligent questions. And man, he kept building and building. And when you look at it and you kind of like reflect all of the energy that he put into this city, it helped build back this city, to be real with you. Because even when Proof when Eminem, I'm sorry, spoke at Proof funeral, he said that, man, one of the things that Proof did for me, he gave me energy. I can't remember the term he used. He was, man, this guy said I could do this shit. He gave, and M always was naturally talented. Of course, he had to, when he got with Dr. Dre, he got with a couple of his producers. He helped curtail the Eminem we know and love now. But he always had that in. He always had that in him. He always had that dog in him, and he was very intelligent and very creative. But Proof, like, kind of highlight, like, yo, you gonna do this? Let's keep going. Let's keep rolling. Cause it was times where M, and it's all been documented. M was right on the cusp of when he did that Windy Day. Shout out to Windy Day. When he went out to that Rap Olympics out in LA, him was like, I got a new kid. I got a girl at home. I'm thinking about giving up. He was right at that precipice of literally giving up. But Proof kind of like, Proof was a battery just for us all to like, no, let's not give up. Let's build this. Let's build this. So coming back to your initial question, yeah, it's nightmares of what could have been. Friends lost. You just it's that was a depression. Even when he died, at 06, 07, 08, it was nightmares. I'm not saying I was having like I didn't have to go see a psychologist. Maybe I needed to. I had at that time I had a great woman who I was living with, who she basically would help soothe me. She would keep me together. So yeah, well, it was nightmares.
M ended up sharing on his Instagram. Did you read what he wrote?
Yeah, yep, I read it. I don't have it memory, but I just like this is deep.
Right. And he basically said that, his life's like trajectory wouldn't have taken what it took without Proof.
Right.
What he shared was really beautiful. Like, you could tell that he definitely had the most amount of respect and love for Proof. Like, I feel like a lot of times people always, maybe outside of Detroit, that aren't as familiar with Proof, looked at Proof as the guy next to M, but M looked at Proof as that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he looked at Proof as the with so much adoration.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because last week or 2 weeks ago, Sade, I, wa- I'm I never knew how to spell that lady's name, but Sade is a four-man group. I mean, a four-person group. It's Sade and the three other musicians, and I kind of like correlate that to Eminem, because the original Eminem that we fell in love with was, of course, Marshall Mathers, Eminem, and you had Proof, and you had DJ Head. That was like the three-man tag team of the original. So when you say Eminem, and I know I do this kind of selfishly, but I all automatically. It's been people changing because you got Alchemist, you got Green Lantern, but the ones that was there in the beginning, to be honest with you, is Eminem, Proof, and DJ Head. They just had this energy and this synergy that it was crazy. That's the ones we fell in love with. The first um 2 albums, maybe 3, but sans the third album because that's controversial, because I think Head had left during the making of the Eminem show. But you talk about the Slim Shady LP, when you talk about the Slim Shady EP, right before he got on with Death Row, I mean Interscope and Aftermath. You talk about the Slim Shady EP, you talk about the Slim Shady LP, and you talk about the Marshall Mathers album. That was when that was an explosion part.
Right. How did Proof end up in the Aaliyah Age Ain't Nothing But a Number video? Were you there?
Yeah, well, basically that happened like our last couple of interviews. It was a small high school. It was like a small group of hip hop nerds, and we all was in a we all was from different parts of Detroit. We had this, it was like this small clique, this clubs, the restaurants we went to, that just the record stores. It was, we all hung out everywhere. And Maurice Malone, of course, he's a native Detroiter, and he was providing some clothes for the Aaliyah video. And Aaliyah is from Detroit. A lot of people they don't really get that. A lot of people be like, she was born, I think, in New York, but she was from here. She went to high school and she was raised here. I think I might be wrong, and like, I guess the commenters correct me, but I believe she was born in New York and her family moved here. Like her dad had found a job in Detroit, and she was like born and went to Detroit. I should know this school. It's like an art school. So she was from here, and she wasn't part of our clique. She was into art. She was a little bit younger than the clique. We talk, because we talking about the whole, when I say the clique, I'm talking about Jay Dilla, the Paul Rosenbergs, the Proofs, the all the members of D12, the Slum Village. I said Jay Dilla. It was a whole cluster of us. That Kid Rock. It's crazy. Kid Rock was around. I don't know if he was hanging with us like thoroughly, like hang out at Proof Crib, but he was in that clique. You had art guys like Champ Town, Five Ella. It was a clique, and part of that clique was Maurice Malone was in that clique too, because he was a party promoter, and I believe, I couldn't remember, but the director was looking for some Detroit, because we filmed it, or I'm not saying we, but they filmed that at two or three different locations. It was filmed in Detroit, and they was like, "Hey, Proof, we want you to," when they was picking us so close, because Proof was at the hip hop shop. He was the manager at the hip hop shop at that time. Just to make a couple of bread while he was being a starving artist. And it was like, "Why don't you be in the video?" And that part in the video, he was only in there for like a few seconds, but of course, due to editing, because you in the editing, he was more in the video, but a lot of it got cut out.
Right.
So yeah, that's how he made his presence. They were the whole gist of the video was, of course, her like singing by herself, but then when she did, like, I want to call them B-roll shots, they were showing her like interacting with different guys trying to talk to her and all of that. I'm not in the mind of the director, but they filmed a lot to that. They did a lot of filming for that music video. That's one of the things I remember. They did a lot of filming.
Yeah, so you're right that her family's originally from Brooklyn, New York, and she moved to Detroit at 5 years old, and she attended the Detroit Fine Arts
Yeah,
high school or whatever, something like that.
yeah, that's an elite school. I know a lot of your subscribers are like young, but that school was relative to like Fame. It was an old show in the 80s that was like a top tier music school in New York, and that was like our Fame. That was like, you had to be a talented singer or music. Regular people could go there, but if you was like if you had like a genius quality being a piano player or a guitar player, that's where you kind of harness your talents at that high school.
At the music video, right? That's so crazy that she was only 15 years old at that time. Cause like when we think of Aaliyah, like we were like, man, she was like one of the most beautiful like women in hip hop, from back right? But was R. Kelly at the music video shoot?
No, no, no.
Cause he
What
wrote
happened
that
with that?
song.
Huh?
He wrote that song.
Oh, he wrote the whole album from what I
Right.
remember. Yeah, yeah. Like, I gotta put my thinking cap on, but Aaliyah, R. Kelly was signed to Aaliyah's uncle's record label, like a production deal through Jive. And of course, R. Kelly is on, and that's kind of relative how Eminem blew up, and he brought D12 along. So R. Kelly, when he started blowing up, record labels be like, "What you got new?" They want to recreate. They seeing all the crazy numbers and money coming in their door. Hey, R. Kelly, you got anything new? And usually the manager and the artist kind of create a production deal where they could sign an artist and get distributed. Easy money, because you want more money coming in. If you got $1 million coming in, hey, I got this young girl from Detroit that's a talent. She's like a very she's a prodigy. Cause back then she was almost considered a prodigy just with her singing and I forgot what else. She had another talent too. And R. Kelly and manager, and of course that's her uncle, Blackground. I think that's the name of the label, Blackground. They say, "Hey, come along," and they sign, and Jive signed her through the R. Kelly and his manager production deal. Now I
Yeah,
wasn't out.
man.
Now I'm in the music business, but at that time I was doing my thing. I wasn't just an intern. I wasn't in the office. I didn't have nothing to do with the deal, but that's how it was purported to the public and to the industry.
Are you a R. Kelly fan?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I
Well,
am. I mean, that's where you come into, do you separate art from the artist?
right. I think that the man obviously has issues, but he is like the best R&B singer that we've ever had, pretty much. The most talented, like, writer and everything, even though if they say that he can't read.
Yeah, but I'm not saying we rewind that, but if you bring out that, you can't be singular. And I'm not trying to play the race card, but if you say R. Kelly and we talk about that, then you gotta roll out. Let's do the rollout. You gotta bring up Bill Wyman from the Rolling Stones. I love all these artists I'm talking about. I love them because my music brain is fucking phenomenal. So you got to bring out Bill Wyman. He married a 15-year-old girl from the Rolling Stones. You got to bring out Elvis Presley. You got to bring out Jerry Lee Lewis. All those guys were dating underage women, and you got to put them in a cluster. Oh, if people be like, "Yo, R. Kelly, R. Kelly, R. Kelly, R. Kelly," you gotta roll them off too. You gotta just be like, uh musicians have a problem obeying with the letter of the law of young and old.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people have done that, so it's not just R. Kelly. Like you said, there's tons of people that have done it.
Right.
But to your what you're saying though, like I feel like in the 80s and even before then, it was more socially acceptable for younger women to be dating older guys like that. Once you start to get into the 90s, it started to be a little bit more like, these are children.
Well, Panda, we ain't gonna talk about that because my family tree, I don't want to even talk. I gotta take the fifth on that because my mother family is from Arkansas and my dad's family is from Alabama. You would be shocked at the age range that like my grandfather and it would be my great grandfather, and you would be shocked. It's the age appropriate, and I'm not trying to give R. Kelly and Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis a leeway, but back then when we talking about the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the
Right, but it was
50s,
socially acceptable back then, though. It
yes,
was
yes.
different, though. But what I'm saying, though, is like once you started to get in towards the 90s and stuff, that started to change. There was a shift.
Yeah, but you gotta remember, me and R. Kelly, and I hate I hate the way that sounds. R. Kelly only got me by like I think 3 or 4 years. And you gotta remember, our parents were in that, so our parents, their parents, our grandparents, that stuff was so the line of lineage, it was very short than what you think. It was very short. Because you got to remember, man, you're talking to my dad had me very late in, well, I'm going to say very late, but he had me at a very late middle age. So my dad fought in World War II. My dad was born in 1923. So you got to remember that. That's like, that's really wow. So with R. Kelly, I don't know R. Kelly's dad age. But you thinking that R. Kelly's dad was probably in that if his dad, and I'm being very presumptuous, but if his dad was in my dad's age range, you got to think it really don't play a part. And I, for one, I'm not sanctioning. I think it's 100% wrong. But you're right. It was just it wasn't acceptable back in those days. But R. Kelly is okay, cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, but once like the law changes and stuff like that, you gotta adjust with the times. You know what I mean? Once the culture changes, you gotta adjust with the times. So yeah, we can't give him a pass. But I mean, at the same time though, you can't deny the man's talent either, though. All them trapped in the closets and stuff. Now he's coming out the closet.
If we was abiding by old laws, I couldn't go get a sandwich at Subway. I mean, I'm just saying it. So yeah, so times change, new laws come in. So I agree. You got to change with times are changing. Times definitely are changing.
All right, man. Well, you recently went at Ray Daniels because he said you cannot kill greatness when speaking about Kanye. You commented, that man disrespected our whole ancestral line of the 19th century, and people on here praising him for his catalog of songs. We are definitely in a new era of music executives. This is a sick analysis. We can do better.
Yeah.
And then
I
like
will
some people
say,
started coming at you and stuff like
oh
that.
man, motherfuckers was so crazy because on my Instagram page, I have some of your clips. It was motherfuckers on there that literally they went on my Instagram page because I just made a comment on Ray Daniels' page. They went on my Instagram page. They started talking about our conversations. Maybe they even went. Maybe these losers went on YouTube and it was like, oh, you just be sucking dick and telling stories about D12 and Eminem all day. I mean, they were coming. They really were coming, and they was doing their research, and they were on my Instagram page making jokes and about just me. And yeah, it got brutal on there. And I just think it's it's like, man, you gotta have a cookie. You gotta start like having a what they call it, a not a cookie trail, but what they call it when you put out.
Breadcrumb.
Yeah, you gotta start having breadcrumbs. I like the term cookie though, cookie crumbs. You gotta start having breadcrumbs. And yeah, I'm not as popular as Ray Daniels. Ray Daniels is he a music industry executive. But I've held my share of own, and I've been in the game, and I'm a OG in the music industry. I've had my moments. And so when a person of his stature makes a comment, a person in that game has to make a comment too. Like when somebody dies, like when a popular person or industry person dies in my area, in like my region, I won't say rest in peace such and such, because you have to do a comment. You have to. I'm old school and I'm a traditionalist, and you have to comment on stuff like that. So if somebody in the industry makes that kind of comment, that's why the Lord on the 10th day created Instagram comments and YouTube comments. So I'm going to give another perspective of it, because
Wait.
Ray has
Let me ask you though, right? You respect what he's done in this game though, right?
oh, no doubt, yeah.
Okay, so it's definitely not hating or anything. But there was a guy that wrote in the comments, but it was they could choose to endure or choose not to and either fight back, with the ending result most likely being a loss of life. Just because you think it would make sense to roll over doesn't mean you don't have to choose to stand your ground. I feel everyone who took offense to his statement got in their feelings over what he said and threw logic out the window, as logic is usually the polar opposite of emotion. And you said, well, I guess Kanye is pimping White Lives Matter brand was thumbs up for you too. If you dare to speak of logic, you and your best friend Kanye should be thankful our ancestors endured slavery and not go to Liberia, which was callously offered by America, or be killed in the fields. I just don't get you folks' emotional toddler thought process. Our ancestors had to suffer for us, as you and I have IG fingers. You don't piss on their logic. Be appreciative to honor their struggle.
Now, let's since you opening up the can of worms, let's open up the can of worms. That person was 88 Keys. I don't know if you said that or not. That was
Right.
88 Keys. Now, with that right, that man, glad you brought that up, because it was some guys, and I don't know their names. It's a group of young African American guys, and they have a podcast, and they're four dudes, and when you look at them, you think in the podcast, it just came across my algorithm, right? And these four young dudes with dreads, they look, they may be from Chicago, and I hope if they see this, because I'm going to at them with this, with this clip. They were talking about Kanye. They was like, what the fuck is Kanye? Why are we capping for Kanye? They was speaking on the perspective of, as black people, yeah, he made those horrible things. He made those horrible statements about the Jewish community in Israel. But these four brothers were saying, man, how is us as a black culture? Because they wasn't really speaking of hip hop. And after we do this, I'll send you the link, because this plays an important role of what we're talking about. So, man, all the guys of my age, I'm talking about Don Lemon, some even guys from my city, we were all commending these young guys. These young guys were like 25 years old, and they got a podcast, and we were like, congratulations. Now, you know what? 88 Keys got under there and commented. Because, like I'm talking about Don Lemon, I think Don Shadell, like black men of my age range, we were commenting like, brothers, you get it. And that's why, as our age range, we were standing up against Kanye and those comments he were making. Now, bring it back to the comment. 88 Keys got out of there and started disrespecting them. Oh, you don't get it. You guys, because they do use the N-word on their show. Then he started going off on them. He started dissing their platform. And I went right under there and I said, 88 Keys, we meet again. I'm like, because trust me, that was on Ray Daniels' page that you're talking about. That's where it spawned off of. And I don't know, maybe me and 88 Keys got the same algorithm, but he started, like, he was the anti. When we were commending them, because they was totally not fucking with Kanye. And they didn't get into the Jewish slant of what Kanye. They were just speaking for, man, as black people, Kanye had this White Lives Matter, and he had some other stuff just some really demonstrable stuff talking of just singularly, he was calling out black people and primarily black men. He made a lot of comments like, Van Lathan from TMZ, when he was combating.
Right.
Yeah, so when I was saying that, I was speaking on the term of how Kanye disrespected and shitting on them. And hey, man, those four brothers, and I wish I knew their names. They were very commendable. And I know, I started researching them more, and they use the N-word, but I use the N-word in this interview, this session, I'm gonna probably use the N-word. It's probably gonna slip out. So I'm just saying, I get people get it. And when I came out, I hope it maybe one of those young brothers seen, or maybe they like maybe they follow Ray Daniels, but it's comfortable saying that I had disagreed with Kanye. And as with Ray Daniels, and I like Ray Daniels, I follow him. Man, he has some very inspirational stuff, because even sometimes on my Instagram stories, I share some of the stuff he puts up. But just me and him we just disagreed on that. Like on that portion of what he was what he posted.
Right. And hasn't 88 Keys worked with Kanye? So that's probably why
Yeah,
he's defending him.
88 Keys. Yeah, 88 Keys work with Kanye. I mean 88 Keys. All during that what's the dude? Help me out here. What's the dude? And now him and Kanye fell out. The guy who Fluffy blew up his car.
Oh, Kid Cudi.
Yeah, back in that whole era, with Kid Cudi and Kanye and all of that, the night and day and all of that. Yeah, 88 Keys was very um around Kanye. Yes.
So then also you wrote being a sponsor is a choice, and you put up the black fist and laughing emojis.
Oh, now
No,
that,
wait. That's when somebody said Dick riding Eminem D12 stories from 20 years ago is a choice too.
Yeah,
y'all
yeah.
Wakanda dudes losing me. The only people y'all give a hard time to is the black man. That's what he said.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. Yeah. But no, with that being said, I put that, and that went viral. I don't want to say viral, because I don't really look for viral, but when Shade Room put up a post about Kanye, I just put being a sponsor is a choice. Well, yeah, when he got kicked out of when Coca-Cola and Pepsi or whichever, I like that, because you know what? I'm thinking granular. I'm thinking it's probably some black exec around my age or younger, and they see like Kanye, and they sitting there like, oh hell no. Nah. Cause it was what Kanye said was very offensive. And it goes back to, like I just shared with your viewers. My dad was in World War II, but you know, my grandfather, Columbus Hicks, he was dancing around that time in slavery. He was right at the end of that. And my great grandfather was a slave, you know, because they come from Alabama. And I remember my grandfather was one of the first black businessmen in Birmingham, Alabama, and all the stories that he had to endure. I think he maybe had a share. I can't. Maybe it was sharecrop. It was something to do with farming. And I remember the stories that's engulfed in my family's history about that. So when Kanye is saying that, I remember, you know, being a 5-year-old kid and having my having my stories, I mean my family stories told as part of my you know, my Hicks family history side of things. So yeah, I took that shit personal, because I knew that it was an enduring part that my family, my grandfather had to personally go through.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, again, to go back to the whole like separating the art from the artist or the person or whatever, right? You know, like Kanye has done amazing music. I think most people would agree, but it doesn't like make it exempt that he can't be held accountable for the stuff that he says or how damaging it can be to the community. You know what I'm saying? Like that it's I don't know, like it's crazy how people are able to overlook those things because they're a fan of somebody's work.
Yeah, and it's almost like that Meatloaf sitting here like us talking about this. It's like that Meatloaf song. I could do everything for you, but I can't do that. I will do everything. that's the way the song went, but it was that's one of my Meatloaf favorite songs. I should know the way the chorus goes. But when you bring up, yeah, I do listen to Elvis Presley. I do listen to the Rolling Stones. I listen to R. Kelly, and I was a big Kanye fan. But it's something about how he it's I could, and like I say, do I agree with young girls and all that? No, I don't. But I know that they come from a lineage of where it was probably cool and they didn't make the transition. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not in their head, but what Kanye did, and he just kept poking the bear at that. I really don't. Honestly, I don't even listen to his music no more. I don't. I don't listen. I deleted all his songs, and I don't. I don't. Shit. I don't listen to him no more.
Mm.
So it is a line. Maybe it's a mental ceiling I have to get over, but it's something about Kanye I just don't like, and it's amongst it's some other things that I don't personally agree with his techniques and different things, but I don't know, man.
Mark, now you know they gonna be in the comments real brutal. They're gonna be like, "Oh, so you willing to listen to a PDF, but you not willing to listen to this guy that made remarks against the black community and yada yada and stuff like that." So
I don't know, man. I think you know what? I feel a connection with Kanye. I do. I feel we are nah. This is like this interview that turned into a psychology class, but I feel like Kanye. I'm not that far removed from him because he's from Chicago. I'm from Detroit. We kind of had we're in the same age range. Well, true enough, touche. R. Kelly is in the same age range, but it comes to a point where I feel very disappointed in Kanye. He I feel disappointed. So I kind of it's kind of like I have a different perspective of him because R. Kelly was a little bit older than me, not far, but Kanye grew up in the whole hip hop culture. R. Kelly was in the hip hop culture, but Kanye was more in the hip hop culture, far removed. I actually done some business with him because he when right when I was right when me and D12 was, parting ways. I got fired. My company got fired for managing him. We negotiated the D12 World deal. I mean, he produced the title track for D12 World. I remember he was getting a haircut and we was in the studio and we were kicking it. And honestly, when I met Kanye, we had the same beliefs. We really kicked it because, me and Kanye is in the same age range, to be honest. We we like a couple of years. I think I'm a couple of years older than him, 3 or 4 years older than him. So yeah, and we shared the same thing. I never had that quality of Kanye. That's like if you we talked and I've gotten to know you, and if I changed like if I did a 180-degree turn and change, you'll be like, damn, I thought I knew Mark. Man, what the fuck is he? What the fuck kind of time he on? And so the brief time I was negotiating with Kanye, I mean his people, and he was working with he was working with me when I was managing D12. That's the part I'm like, oh, really?
you know what it is? What it is that his early work with the soul samples and like the conscious messages and stuff like that, like the stuff that he was saying, is set an unprecedented expectation of who you thought this guy was, right? With like the messages that he said on All Falls Down, all these different things. And then all of a sudden he transformed to this other person and you was like, who is this motherfucker? Like, I don't even know who he is. Like, is this the same guy? I think that you got let down, really. Like you were very disappointed. Like R. Kelly, yeah, he made good music, like for like fucking and shit like that, but you didn't have like this expectation, like, oh, this guy is like actually elevating our people or like spreading like uplifting like our people from a good message or something like that, right? Like you looked at Kanye in a different light. So then when that happened, when he made those comments that were not just disappointing but was damaging towards the black community. I feel like, right? You were like, damn, like how could you do that?
And let's not forget, I brought this up just a few minutes ago. Kanye was poking the bear because I know as adults, in this society, we have like short-term memory. But if you remember when Kanye said the slavery is a choice, he was active on Twitter and he would be saying some very fiery shit. He would be definitely putting gasoline on the fire. And people forget that. Sometimes he would say some crazy asinine shit and he would delete it. So when people was was I mean, not people, but when Kanye was, he kept like poking the bear and poking it, and he would make comments. Now with R. Kelly was like, I don't know,
So
man.
we not condoning anything that R. Kelly did.
Yeah, I'm
We're
not
saying
condoning.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
anti it because I'm
Right.
like McDonald's might want to sponsor something I'm a part of, and I'm sitting up here defending R. Kelly. Thanks, Panda. But yeah, I don't really know. I think that's a bad, you know, he's bad. That was a bad time in his life, and hey, he's serving time for it. He's a man that's in jail, and he's serving his penance.
Right.
Uh,
What did you think of Paul Rosenberg recently on the Tony Yayo and Uncle Murda podcast, where he said there was a moment in time where 50 Cent was actually bigger than Eminem, and they were happy because 50 was their artist.
yeah, yeah. That's one of
You
the.
agree with that? You
That's
agree
one
that,
of the
that
best
50 was
things,
bigger?
huh?
You agree that 50 was bigger than M at one point?
Yeah, but it's temporal. It's like
Right.
M didn't have nothing. They didn't have nothing out. I mean, let's do the real talk. We talked about that in the last interview. M had that historic run. 99 he had Slim Shady LP. 2000 he had Marshall Mathers LP. Then 2001 he had the D12 album. Then 2002 um he had the
Eminem Show and 8 Mile.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, well, did he have Eminem Show? Yeah, he did. He had Eminem Show 2002, and he had 8 Mile, right? And then you think about, and in 2003, M didn't have an album out, and he had 50 came out. And in 2004, he came out with Encore. And I'm doing this all freestyle. I don't have no tablet in front of me. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you want that. I mean, let's get into the minutia of it. Frank Sinatra was the owner of Reprise Records, and Frank Sinatra loved for different artists on Reprise to come out and blow up. Big Daddy Kane was on Reprise Records. A&M stood for Herb Alford, and Herb Alford was a popular artist in the 70s. Herb Alford and Tijuana Black. Do you know A&M? Janet Jackson was on A&M. All type of big artists was on A&M. And what Herb Alford, that was his record company. He was a talented person, or he's still alive, and he had an A&R, and he knew where he wanted his money to go in. And so as M and Paul being investors in Shady Records, they love for 50 to do crazy numbers. So that's a smart business, man.
What was that time period like, man, when you were seeing the whole Shady aftermath, G Unit, like everything that was coming out was like gold?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I always tell people, and when people don't really understand, and I have to really adapt my life, I've led a life like Forrest Gump of just, man, it was times in my life where stuff was every week something was happening. And then I come from, my company was a promo company. So from the past, I had the Biggie, the Coolios. And I mean, so I made a transition of really kind of folding or taking my guerrilla marketing street promo company, and it went into hiatus. And then I started managing D12 with Rico Shelton. So the transition was wild. So it's like, going to the Lakers and, going to the Lakers and then getting traded to the Boston Celtics, you know, so everything was really like working. So that was like it was like a movie. And when I use that, that's an old phrase term, and it's a it's a often used term, but my life was like a movie, man.
Mm.
It was crazy, just different things. And oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah. And it's not like, oh yeah, and it's like not cap. I see some people, they be really, really, really capping. I almost have to over I have to undervalue, because some people don't really listen. They can really understand what I done been through. Like, say for instance, when I go on a date, like now I'm dating, like, you know, when I sometimes every blue moon go on a date, I have to undervalue. I have to be like, yeah, I was with this because I don't want to be like that. They couldn't imagine. They couldn't imagine. Really, they couldn't. Maybe maybe if a girl go on a date, she look up my Instagram page or, my Facebook page, but I have to
But it wouldn't do it justice, though. It wouldn't even do it justice.
yeah.
Right. And I'm assuming that you probably don't want to come across as the guy talking about the touchdowns in high school and stuff like that, you know?
Oh, yeah, I hate that. That is one of my pet peeves, that likes to talk about his career guy. I hate that.
Right.
And I gotta say too, I know I do, I gotta say too, I ain't did a lot of guys say too on this one, so I gotta mix that in the fix. A guy who's like that is Paul Rosenberg. 'Cause Paul Rosenberg, that's my dog. And he's a very, very sincere friend.
Shout out to Paul, man.
Yeah, shout out to Paul Rosenberg. And when we get together, dude, it's like we talking about our health, because we're both, well, I'm not saying we spring chickens, but we both like talk about health. He talk about his kids, and we will talk about sports, and we talk about, really, we can have hours conversations just about life. There's a couple other people that's like that. Some people, they'll call me, like, I'll get a phone call, like I was preparing for this interview, and somebody will call like, hey, we got this, or hey, you got this connector, or hey, this, because that's part of my job now. I'm almost like an emeritus promo guy, and I'm like a connector of different things, but that just comes with the territory. And some of my friends, all they do know how to talk about is industry shit. Not no, they don't share funny memes and none of this stuff. So yeah, I'm anti just propping myself up. Now sometimes it comes out and I might have to give a parable, or I might have to give some sage advice to a person. I remember I was on I don't know if you call it a date. I don't know if she called it a date, but it was one date I was on, and I was really trying to like just be oppressive, like laid back, and she wanted to start a business, and she needed some marketing advice. And it instantly turned into, I had to take my music marketing brain, because honestly, man, entertainment marketing people, they have a different way of seeing the world. And advertisers too, because my favorite show ever is Mad Men. And so we on this date, and my switch came on, and we went on this. So the date kind of ended, and I was giving her advice on marketing and different things. And I still don't know if it was a date. I don't know. And then I text her like, "Hey, this." I think she texted me the next day, and she was like, "Oh man, we started talking." I was like, "Look, I got to tell you, I apologize. You just turned something on me, and my music industry head came on, and I was giving you. I think I gave her a great fight." She's like, "No, no, no. I love it. I love that." I was like, "I apologize. Maybe I got to do a redate redo." But I hate that. Personally, I hate that, because I could sit and just have a beer and just talk, and I will play down. Cause part of my culture, well, not my part of my culture, but part of my hobbies, I smoke cigars. I'm not saying people should do that. But when I would go into some cigar lounge, it's almost like going to a barber shop. So when you go to a cigar lounge, you talk about news of the world, and then people like, hey, what do you do? Man, sometimes I won't even say what I do. I don't, because it's so crazy when that happens. And when a person who lived my life, they know it's like being a superhero. It's like an undercover Batman. Another
Yeah, I
story.
can only imagine, because then all of a sudden, like, you take up all the space in the room, because like everybody's made, wait, what? And then they start asking you tons of questions and stuff, and then it becomes all about, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you just want to be low key.
Yeah, man. Oh, another funny story. I'm not trying to like go long on it, but the doctor's office, because I've said in my past interviews, I had a very fucked up sick part of my life where I had heart failure, from just bad living the music industry. And so when I'm going into this doctor's office, I'm being very, 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 very humble. But I did have like rock and roll shirts. I had like a Led Zeppelin shirt on one time. And this nurse noticed. This is when I was real, real sick, and I had to go to the doctor's office constantly. Well, it was maybe like a year after that, and I used to wear rock shirts, and she would discuss like, what do you know about Rolling Stones, or what do you know about Led Zeppelin? The nurse did before the doctor got in there,
Well,
and
because
we
you
always just
black?
have it.
Because you black?
Maybe, but she was, yeah, she was white, but we just would joke around. We would joke around. She was like, what do you know? Honestly, to be real with you, I look younger. That my age don't match my look. All right. So she'll be like, you too old. This is what she said. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to cap. But she'll be like, you look younger. But she looked at my chart. She's like, damn, you are age appropriate to know who Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones are, right? So me and her had this little brief. We would talk about rock, and ironically, I was in the Detroit Museum because this lady by the name of Jenny Risher, a wonderful she's probably one of the best photographers. She's probably one of the best. She's one of the best photographers. She's not in Michigan. She's an extreme good photographer. She did an exhibit called Decipher, where she did a exhibit about the history about Detroit music. And I was one of her subjects. I was one of her photo shoots. So for like 3 months or 6 months, my picture was in the Detroit Museum. And the Detroit Museum, of the world don't know, that is a renowned museum. That nurse I'm talking about, she was there. I guess she likes art. She seen my picture in the museum. So the next time I go to the doctor's office, she was like, I didn't know I was dealing with a fucking rock god. She just like, I didn't know. And I mean, she was like, what the hell, Mark? I did not know that. I'm strolling along in the museum with my kids, and I see your picture on the walls at a fucking museum. And so that's how, like,
And she was like, no wonder he got heart problems.
yeah, no, I can't go into that story, but yeah, I had, yeah, to a certain degree, but she didn't say that, but yeah, she was like, damn, you lived a crazy life. And then she had kind of, she said, then it turns into when she see me again. Unfortunately, she's not at that. She's not. She moved. She went to another doctor's office. But then she got into. She wanted to know the news of the world about the music industry, and I just like to be like a Mark Hicks type of guy and just kick it.
Right, right, right. I would love to see you on the Tony Yayo and Uncle Murder podcast. I feel like you would have so much to talk to them about during that time period and everything.
Right? Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna
Yeah, I think
happen.
that would be dope, man.
Man, but I just
Yo,
been, huh?
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just been really just building on. I'm building this atom bomb I've been diligently working on.
Up
So
North Heat.
yeah, with the up north heat thing, it's a it's just being a founder, man. And I'll say this. I would say, and I'm not trying to jinx myself because I'm very superstitious, but I founded my marquee promotion company, and Proof was I almost want to say a co-founder because Proof, like he gave me the fuel to start my promote. He gave me the energy to be like, man, fuck that. Let's you could be in the game. And so I founded my Mark Hicks promo company. I co-founded my dirty management company when we managed D12 with Rico Shelton. He was a co-founder with me when we founded Man. And we had like a lot of different, we managed D12, we managed Boss for a hot second. We did consulting work with Obi Trice with his brother Terry Wilson, who was a 100% manager, but we did some consulting work, management consulting work with Obi and Terry Wilson. So that was a good, and this is the third founding is Up North Heat. This will probably be my last at this go of founding, because when people know, and you know this too, and some of your subscribers and fans, when you say you're founding something, that's really taking an idea and making it work. And with the whole Panda Chop platform, it's hard. Me and you, we talk offline, we interview, we sympathize with each other on. It's a tough goal, and launch this Up North Heat. People don't even know the role of what actually happens with that. That's a very tough. That is probably one of the toughest jobs of being a. It's really that's almost being God, like, if you will. That's really creating something from an idea. I don't know. You never told me how did you want to create Panda Top, but maybe you was walking down the street and, hey, I want to have my own platform. I want to have my own Panda Top. And going through that and buying your equipment and robbing Peter to pay Paul. And that's a very strenuous task. And I commend anybody who takes that road.
Right, right. What happened with the Encore album? Because there was a major leak, right, that impacted that album.
Well, they kind of touched on that. Oh man, I should know this more, but didn't Paul and you remember Paul and Eminem? They came out with LeBron James was their partner on that documentary that was on Paramount when music got free. You remember they were talking about the music leak parts of it, and they were talking about how it was it was like a clergy or a clergy of different internet people that from the Napster era. And they kind of talked about that in that documentary. It's a great documentary if nobody haven't seen it yet. But
Oh,
yep.
I haven't seen it. Oh man, I gotta watch that.
What?
Yeah.
That will answer your question way more than
Well, what I was saying, because like I know that like a lot of those songs like ended up being a part of like the Straight from the Lab EP or something like that, and then he ended up later including them on like the deluxe version of the Encore album, right? But like it really impacted the rollout of that album.
Oh, I don't understand your question about you saying how did it get leaked? You lost me for a sec.
Like just like, yeah, what happened during that time period, because it really impacted the album, the songs leaking. Like it changed the direction of the album, a lot of it though.
But man, it was a daily operation. I mean, and I'm not trying to be an infomercial for that, but when music got free, kind of explained that it was getting leaked from all different type of ways, like the distributor company in the Carolinas, because I believe I believe it was North Carolina, South Carolina, and of course the fans I know they probably seen it because it was leaked in so many ways where you thought people were people would fly in and have the suitcase with the and how they would come in with the master, and they would have the
Handcuff.
couplets, and they would have it chained to their suitcase, and it was coming all different type of directions. The music traders online. So it came from online. But once again, I know I sound redundant, but Eminem, like right now, I don't know, it's Saturday, and Eminem is probably recording. Eminem he's the epitome of a studio rat. And I use that lovingly. He literally works how everybody got a job like 9 to 5. M job he is a constant worker. He is in the studio. He just loves maybe it's therapy. I'm not in his head, but he literally makes music. He loves making music and music and music and music. So so it really didn't matter, because he probably at that time he probably made, and I'm being very presumptuous here, he probably had like 100, 200 songs in the chamber.
Well, because I remember when Paul and M, they did that Shade 45 like exclusive interview together, where Paul had that like short period of time where he was like interviewing people. He had a little podcast. Right.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna mark. I was on the I did the Paul, thanks to he's Shady Records and Goliath artists in management. They're one of my clients still, and I love them for that. So yeah, I was on that marketing campaign.
right. I just think I remember M and Paul were talking about like how they were really upset about the leaking of that time though, like and how it really like messed up the situation. I was just asking for your insight on like, do you remember when that was happening and like what was like the reaction?
Well, at that time, I had switched sides because I was let go by D12 in 2003, and that was in 2004. So at that time, I was working, which, and I should say, wait a minute, that might be take miscrew when I say switch sides. We all family. I love Swift. I love Vaughn. We all don't talk. Some of us ain't talking years, and some of us got different. As far as crazy as it seemed, some of us got different views and different thoughts on the world as we see it. So uh, we still alumni union. So when I say switch sides, I don't want that to be a torturous a quote. Like, I don't want that to be bad and the evil. So when I say switch sides, I've been saying I went from working as management from D12 to I started doing consulting work back, which was shady, because at the time it would have leaked kind of odd if I was managing D12 and D12 was working my marketing, and they was hiring my marketing company. So that's why I put my marketing company on hiatus. At that time I was working with Shady Records. Man, we just kept it moving. We knew it was attached. And I can't recall when Paul and M had that. No, I remember the conversation they had, but I can't. Well, it just came with the territory. We just figured it out. It came with the territory.
You know what I really want to ask you about is when piracy on the internet with like Napster and all that first
Yeah, that
started
part of the when
happening.
music got free. That's part exactly. Yeah.
Right. But when it first started happening, right, and you're seeing this working in the music business, how are the labels reacting from your vantage point of what you saw?
Well, it was based on a curve. I said it rose rampant. It rose rampant where it started affecting numbers maybe in the mid 90s to the 2005 to the mid 2000s. But it like comes with the territory. I mean, so much money was being made that it's like, if me and you working at McDonald's and we got a hooker where if Panda get some discounts at at Foot Locker, if you give the Foot Locker manager a free meal every time you come in there. And I'm working at McDonald's, and in order to get some free video games, the guys at GameStop get free hamburgers. Well, my point being is that McDonald's, me and you working at, still gonna make a shitload of money, even though me and you are doing, we're stealing, to be honest. Like, you know, it's different then, but we're stealing from the company that employs us. So back then, we were making a shitload of, I mean, the industry, everybody was making, it was cash bags everywhere. Money was dropping from the floors of everywhere, right? So our thing was, and this was great for us, keep promoting, and not to give some of the secrets of the industry. Sometimes we created certain leaks, not from the whole shady part, but when we talk about, because you ask, that's a very big 10 question. And when my promo company, sometimes we would get songs to just leak. So sometimes it would come from the industry. You see what I'm saying? It would come from the industry. Yeah, man, that happened all the time.
But wasn't there a panic during that time when it first started happening, and like people like, because I mean during that time people were selling CDs for expensive too, like for like $20.
Yeah,
you
right.
know, and then they started slashing prices more.
And you got to remember too, Panda. Let me put my professor. I don't know what they call that professor. What is the professor hats or the graduation cap? Let's educate, right? You're talking about an era that when a record company, the only way they made money was on CDs and cassettes and vinyl. The 360 wasn't in place. So record companies like a Warner Bros., they didn't make money off of publishing. They didn't get a cut of your show money. All they made money on was memorabilia, like the shirts, and that was questionable, but really they only made money on CDs, vinyl. So remember that. So they were like, really, it was really a nervous time for them, because they couldn't be like nowadays, the record company with 360 deals. And I know we can't really go into that. And I mean, I know we're time constrained, but 360s that saves the music. Streaming and 360s in essence save the music industry, because that was kind of an antidote of what the area you're talking about. That's kind of how 360s were created, because they were taking such heavy leaks on leaks. They had to find a way to make make money and keep afloat and keep the lights on at a record company.
What did you think of the most recent leaked Eminem songs, including the diss track to Suge Knight? And there was a lawsuit over it. It was former Eminem employee Joseph Strange from 2007 to 2021. He worked for M Studio as an audio engineer for 14 years at the Ferndale, Michigan studio. And then he was charged in 2025 for stealing and selling over 25 unreleased songs for like Bitcoin, like $50,000 of Bitcoin and stuff. And they found like thousands of stolen audio files and handwritten lyrics in his house. And dude is facing up to 15 years in prison.
Well, Panda, unfortunately, I gotta say, I got a column which you dissed yesterday. I got a column where it says current clients and past clients. With that being in court systems, and with Shady being a current client, I don't want Shady to graduate into the past client. So I really can't talk about that topic per se.
Got you. Okay.
See what I'm saying? That's all I've just said. I can't, because I don't want them to bring up this in the court case, because that is a heavy court case, which the public know. I can only speak from just what people see online and read. So I can't really comment on that point.
All right, no problem. I'm gonna cut that part out. Don't worry about it. I got you.
Well, you could, you know what? You could put the part in about me saying no comment. That'll be cool.
All right.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Okay.
I'm rocking with that. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
I would get some. I would get some. I would get some. I would get an honorary stripe, if you will.
All right. M did this song back in the day that was included on Curtain Call 1 called Fuck, Fuck, Fuck. I'm gonna fucking come.
Right.
And now it was probably the most hilarious and worst Eminem song of all time that I think a lot of people will say, but it was so entertaining at the same time, right? Because he's such a funny guy. But Stat Quo was on a podcast talking about that song with the gerbil going in and out of Richard Gere's ass, pause. And he said M wrote a whole album from the perspective of the gerbil. Is that true?
Once again, I wasn't in the studio per se, because you got to remember, this is just historical. When you are an artist manager, you have the rights to be back and forth in the studio. Like during that time, I'm on the. It's the trip. One time I was on a panel, and I kind of like pin what I'm saying. I was up in Flint, and Kadar Massenberg, and if people don't know who Kadar Massenberg, he's a brilliant genius. He's the one who signed Erykah Badu. He had a deal through Motown. And matter of fact, he at one time he was president of Motown, and he was sitting in the crowd. And I gave an analogy about the music business. I said, when you're like in management and when you work with artists, that's like you're eating. You're eating food. When you're in the marketing part and when the record is done, that's the anal part. That's when you got to take a shit. So Kadar Masper said, bro, I'm stealing that. I'm using that. I don't give a fuck. You can sue me. And I can't remember because it was many years ago. But so let's bring up your question. So when M was in the creating mode, of course, I had to be in and out of the studio, because sometimes when M would be creating, sometimes he would be making records for D12, then he would flip into the Eminem mode. So I had the opportunity and the privilege to be in the studio. But when I went at that time during that era you talking about, I went back to, in order to put food on the table and take care of my girl, I had to switch into the marketing mode. So I had to, my promo company had to get out of hiatus, and I had to like start back in marketing. So I started working with Shady Records. Paul gave me the privilege of rehiring back my company to, in some aspects of doing independent marketing. So I wasn't privy to that thing. So when Stat Quo, of course, he was at the time, he was signed to Shady, and he had different motion where he was privileged to be in the studio. And of course, DJ, who was always in the Interscope realm, and he was M original, he was one of M original A&Rs, they have more knowledge about that.
Mm. But does it sound like something that M would do?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're talking about, well, the gerbil, I've seen M, man. I think I could share these stories because we're in a secret setting. What, we just you, me, and that whole billion platform of YouTube that hasn't grew yet. So I could tell you some stories between you and the fans. I remember like going on sets, and M would come up with an idea. And that's why, man, M, he's a genius, he's talented, but he had a 92 dream team, or whatever somebody's watching this, whatever they say, hey, that's the best football, basketball team. Behind M has always had a brilliant support team, from the Paul Rosenberg to Tracy McNews, just the everything, the Droles, even the current, the Droles, and just just there. The team, Alvon Miller, Mark LaBelle, he's the OG. Dennis Denny. He has had a brilliant team around him, and it kind of complements his genius, right? So we would be out in LA. This is when I was managing D12, and we were doing the Without Me song. And I remember M watching like a Dick Cheney, it was something about Dick Cheney. And M was like, man, I want that motherfucker in the video. He was like, that'd be so crazy. I believe this story. He was like, just having a heart attack. Man, they had to find a fucking Dick Cheney on the drop of a hat to have a heart attack. So if you see that video, in the video, it's a Dick Cheney having a heart attack. So I mean, he or maybe when he was creating the song, it's been many years, but M has always visual. If he says a lyric, he already has his mind about visualizing something to come into fruition. And Paul do that too. So they are like very creative on that point. So his creative is, man, his crazy. He's a genius, man. He's a genius. And some of the stuff with the public, and I hate to be this guy, but like, damn. I wish some of the stuff that will never come out, he has did crazy stuff. So he's just a genius with that.
Got you. Why did the Stat Quo album never come out?
Well, honestly, I don't know, but it's a crazy dynamic of that. And I'm like, I got kind of introduced to, I see DJ Moremill and Stat Quo. Now they're in business together because Stat Quo and DJ Moremill, they got business. They got businesses together because they were the ones that put out, I believe they put out Little Xan, and they worked it. They are in business, so I don't know how that worked, but I don't know. It's the timing. But that album did get leaked. Speaking of leaks, I believe that album got leaked.
Statlanta?
Well, yeah, a lot of that stuff got leaked, but I don't know, man. It was a day and a time, and it was all Aftermath, and of course,
right.
Dr. Dre is very frugal on his sound he wants out. Dr. Dre is and just working with Dr. Dre when I was managing D12, man, he's another brilliant genius. That's when I say my life is like a movie. It's very crazy to. I know I'm inserting myself in some of these conversations, but of course, the interview is about me. It's crazy, like going on a date and having to end it because you got to go to the studio because Dr. Dre wanted to get the guys in the studio like, oh, babe, we gotta cancel this, we gotta cancel dinner. We gotta wrap this up because I gotta be in the studio with Dr. Dre all night because the guys got to go back and do some recutting of vocals. So with Dr. Dre was a part of that stat, and so we all know, the whole world know that Dre is very keen on like what he drops is very authority is very watched. So I don't know that's a Dr. Dre question, but I know Stat Quo is always brilliant because when we got a taste of him, pause. It was a mixtape he had put out, and I think that's one of the reasons why M and Dr. Dre were like and Paul was interested in him. He was making some noise. So man, Stat Quo is very talented, brother.
Yeah.
And that's now with all this stuff, because he's responsible for the Little Xan, and he has some other development acts that I can't even I'm not saying remember, but he became a really powerful behind the scenes guy.
So,
but it wasn't his talent. Stack is, I know I'm gonna notice this might be controversial, but when I first heard Kendrick, Stat Quo and Kendrick, maybe because they vocals, but it was a little bit of a remnants of Stat Quo sprinkled into Kendrick. Do you agree? I mean, do you see any kind of semblance of that?
Not really, but I guess a little bit. I can kind of see what you're trying to say, but I think it's kind of reaching.
I don't know. I'm not talking about the, and I'm not trying to shine light on neither artist, but it, cause if you think of some of the songs like Stat put out, I'm not saying at all that Kendrick duped him, but they did have a sale, in the early parts of Kendrick's career. And I always thought like, damn, Stat.
Let me ask you this tough question, okay? Stat Quo told the story of he pissed M off and M stopped fucking with him. And he came into the studio one day after he pissed off M, and Dre was like, you know, my man ain't fucking with you no more, or something like that along the lines, right? So that's what his explanation was, a little bit of why eventually his album didn't come out or things didn't work out with Shady. Now, a few years ago, your man Bizarre was on the Bootleg Kev podcast, and he said that he alluded to the fact that Stat Quo was the ghostwriter of Game's diss track to Eminem.
I don't know. That's all hearsay. I mean, because you talking from a Bizarre perspective, you talking from a Stat Quo perspective. What's your question? I mean, I'm asking. I'm being real serious. What is your question? Because I can't.
Your thoughts. What are your thoughts on that? Like, cause it's like Bizarre. I feel like sometimes he just says stuff to kind of like stir up some trouble, and you kind of just laugh it off because you know like that's him. You know what I mean? But then like it's kind of funny at the same time. So it's like just like what is your reaction to that?
Man. I can't. My reaction. Do I think it's true or not, or what's your?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Cause I don't think so. I honestly, and I'm not going against Bizarre, and I'm not going against Stat, but I don't think so, man. It's
I think that I don't think that Stat would write a diss track to M, even though that he was in business with Game at one point. They had like a record company they were doing together at one point. So I know they've done business, but I just don't think that Stat would do that. And also, like, you can say what you want about Game, but Game really does rap, and I don't think that he needs somebody to write for him.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. I don't even think Game's ego would let somebody be a ghostwriter for him. To be honest.
Right.
Now, of course, hooks. Everybody use hooks, but I don't think Game is the type.
His bars.
Yeah, I don't think. His lyrics. I don't think so.
Gotcha. All right, so during the Shady 2.0 with Slaughterhouse and Yellow Wolf, right? What work did you do?
Oh, I just did the promo. Like I said, I was doing promo. So it's almost like I was a server. Like at a restaurant, I went from, and we don't want to go to eating and anal part. If we want to clean it up for our PG audience, it go from being a cook where you in the kitchen cooking and you not overseeing, but you in the behind the scenes making sure, because the artists are the cooks, but you got to be the one that, hey, I got to go to the store, get the seasoning. I gotta make sure the butter, all of that. That's what kind of artist management and people, the support team, and the music business people do. And I went, when you in marketing and promo, you're to come the server. You're just serving the food up. And during that time, I was in marketing, so I was just serving the food up. So you can't really have a ear or A&R. You gotta say, hey, this record ain't banging or it's not working. So I was in the promo aspect of working, doing some consulting work with Shady.
That was so disappointing what happened with Slaughterhouse. I know for M too, because he wanted those guys to be so successful. From your point of view, what really happened with Slaughterhouse?
I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't behind the scenes, and at that time, me and Kino Childry, who was Roy's manager forever. We kind of like lost contact, because once again, Kino's always been in the artist management, and
right.
went back to being in the promo marketing side of things. So I had to have that kind of eye. So I wasn't in the behind the scenes of it. But honestly, what happened with that? Well, shit, I would say Twitter and X, whatever, because I always seen Joe Budden was very opinionated, and I always knew that Joe Budden would, hey man, if Joe Budden don't like a piece of if his corned beef sandwich at that time, if it's bad, he would go on Twitter and be like, hey man, fuck that deli in fucking Brunswick, New Jersey. They some bitch ass motherfuckers. So a lot of what you're talking about was a Twitter era. Because people just they just had Twitter fingers. And I do remember, I'm trying to use my noodle, you trying to have my noodle go back maybe like 12 years or 13 years. And I do remember, like, okay, I was doing promo with Shady, but then I do see like Joe Budden would say stuff like out of turn on Twitter. Cause that's when Joe was real. That's when Twitter was our Instagram. And Instagram wasn't around and everybody was like on Twitter and that's why people that lost their jobs and shit and had to resign from Congress because of past Twitter comments. So I do remember it was, man, Joe was like not happy with what was going on. And I think that spilled into like real life industry where maybe Interscope, but I'm speculating on here. Like I said, I wasn't around in that part of in that house of the part of the music business. But I do think what they say back then got you in deep trouble.
Yeah. It was really disappointing, man. I was a big fan of Joe's music, all the mood musics and stuff like that, and Slaughterhouse. But yeah, I think that there was a lot of problems, man. I mean, they've admitted that they had bad business. It was always bad business. I don't think necessarily saying was shady, but just like their inner workings of the business.
Now I will tell you something, really. I will tell you something. Being kind of like, since we're in a private conversation, outside of my responsibility of like getting a check and working for like Shady during that time, as Mark Hicks, the music, because I consider myself like a studier of the music business, even a philosopher of the music business. I didn't agree with, and this may be a little bit long-winded, but I didn't agree with Joe Budden, personally him. I'm talking about Joe Budden. I didn't agree with his idealities and his thought process, because it was some dear friends, Paul included, that I thought he was speaking out against. And I didn't like that. I personally, and this wasn't me being a paid spokesman from Shady. This is just Mark Hicks from Highland Park, Michigan, who, to God be the glory, was in the music industry. I didn't like Joe Budden moves he was making during that time. And this ain't like no behind it. This is just what was public and what he said on Twitter. I thought
I mean, I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that most people, they love how controversial he is, but at the same time, I think that a lot of people have an issue with the way that he handles things, though.
Yeah, because it goes all the way back. Let me get the mic for a second, because one of my friends, who back in the promo, this is before the Eminem explosion. It's a brother by the name of Rob Love. And Rob Love was a national director of Def Jam. He did what in the Virginias, what I did, and it's, I've said what my marketing company and my street promotions company, he did that in the Virginias. And to God be the glory, he got hired by Def Jam through Kevin Lyles to run their national company, their national promo. Rob Love. So what happened? he was doing such a great job. Def Jam gave him his own record label called Spit Records. And his first act was Joe Budden. So Pump It Up, in essence, came through, and people will correct me if I'm wrong, but his first act was Joe Budden at Def Jam with the Pump It Up in that whole era, right? And I didn't like, and I was hearing stuff, and I never came out of the mouth of Rob Love, but I heard at that time it was a lot of craziness going on in the Def Jam, the whole dynamics of Rob Love, Joe Buttons, and I'm speaking from me, and I could get corrected, and I might have to make an apology, but I didn't like, because I was team Rob Love, because Rob Love was family. I met him like in 94, 95 at like a convention, and I met him through, I was Tommy Boy Detroit and he was Tommy Boy Virginia. So we had a kinship there already. We had a bond there. So he was my friend, and I didn't like how that went on. So that was like, I didn't like what I heard Joe Budden did. And Joe Budden even talk about this to a certain degree. He didn't name names, he don't shit on Rob Love, from what I know. So I didn't like that. So then when the whole, how Royce and Joe Budden, they on the tour, they found on like a D12 tour, I believe that's how one of the first remnants of Slaughterhouse came to be, because Royce was on tour with D12 and Joe Budden was on tour with D12, and they kind of built a bond, like Royce and Joe, and then they went out. I think that's how the story go.
And no, that's not how Slaughterhouse was made, but I remember the tour you're talking about. That's when D12 had the Return of the Dozen mixtape and everything like that.
Oh yeah, that's right. But yeah, and on that tour, and I'm not trying to be a history revisionist, but I remember that Royce and because at that time, what happened, D12, they got rid of, they was going through managers. I don't want to say a lot, but they rehired. They didn't rehire me back, but they rehired the co-founder of
Rico Shelton,
Dirty Management, Rico Shelton, my former partner, and they rehired him. So Rico is very adroit at putting together shows, especially up in Canada. So he put this together with D12, Joe Budden, and Royce. And like I said, once again, I said that was the remnants, that was the seeding of getting Slaughterhouse together. And of course, that you could, Keno and other people, Crystal Isaacs, that was a part of that, a part of the history. They know way more. But I'm just the chatter I was hearing in terms of Joe Budden. So now we graduate to 2026, and I watched some of Joe Budden interviews, and a change was made. Some of the way me and him see the world, I agree with. Well, back then with the whole Wu-Tang, he had issues with Wu-Tang and and certain things of rumors, just the way he was kind of making subtle shots at Shady Records. That's family, man. Shady Records is family,
right.
And so I didn't like that. And he would call out, and once again, this is public, and I'm not trying to, Paul is Paul, and Paul has he has a very intelligent mouth than me, and he can speak, and he has a platform to speak. But as me being a friend, as I'm sure if Paul has stood up for me when I wasn't around. And one of my things is, a real friend is standing up for you when you're not around. And I've had that happen with Paul Rosenberg, that stood up for me. Proof used to always stand up for me. And it's an endearing term for a friend to do that. So when I would hear when Joe Budden would publicly take a shot at Rosenberg, Paul Rosenberg, he would come out and name, this is like, I would be like, yo, I'm like, what the fuck?
I remember.
I mean, I'm just saying that it would. I'm just saying that it would. It it offended me. So me and him didn't see you. Of course, with Paul being damn near like family with me, that was it was a pot shot that I didn't like, and it didn't have to. And it wasn't Paul influence. It was just me being his boy. Like one of your boys. If somebody take a pot shot at one of your boys, now your boy is gonna be offended by it, but you gonna get like, man, what the fuck he talking about? My boy Dion for what the fuck is that about? So yeah, so I did, but as I noticed, Joe Budden has become very mature in this current state where he did it. And y'all like, man, I fuck with y'all on that. I see what he's saying. Yeah, even though the way he
He's
moves,
definitely gotten better. He
yeah,
still
even
has his moments. He
his
still has his
business
moments.
lines. I'm like, yeah, I fuck with Joe. I see some stuff, and this just happened recent, but back then, and even when back in the whole Def Jam era, I didn't like some of the stuff he was doing. And to be honest with you, he's even in certain interviews, he kind of like this his current his not current, but this his past ways. He's dissed it.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, like when people are creative in a certain way, sometimes they lack certain skills, like social skills, or like they're like quirky in kind of weird ways, right? And I feel like Joe has always come across that way, where it's like the way that he thinks is so different from like this average person. Right. So the way things come across to him, the way that he talks to people, or how he interprets the way people talk to him is very different. But like what you're talking about with the whole Paul thing, what I remember was when he was on Everyday Struggle and he was dissing the Eminem Revival album, and he was saying, I don't know if this is because Paul went and took a job over at Def Jam or what and stuff like that. That's what I remember him talking about Paul. But
That was just a microcosm. But you're right though. Everyday Struggle gave him a platform, and there was some other things where he was openly, and especially on Twitter. Maybe he deleted some stuff, but no, he would basically call out Paul like, "Oh, that's Rosenberg, that's Paul Rosenberg," because most people didn't really. Well, I can't say that. The Eminem fans have always did. They've always, Paul's always had his fans from because back then the album covers always had our names and our everything on there. So that's why even people to this day now, people still follow me on on my Instagram page and my Facebook page. They just remember I was one of the original managers of D12, and they just remember. They ask me questions. They sometimes I entertain them DMing me, but yeah, I talk to them and they telling them about my friends. But yeah, he kind of made it more where the Eminem fan base, that Eminem ecosystem, they knew Paul Rosenberg, but sometimes he would be dropping stuff that the average hip hop person would know who Paul Rosenberg is, but he would be kind of bringing his name up, if you will.
I think I remember him making some comments like Paul was protecting M too much, or like kind of like isolating him or something, like something along those lines. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he make some comments like that?
Yeah, he did that. How was it? That was his shtick.
Yeah, yeah. It's if I remember correctly, he was saying that because when he was going at M during that time, and it created a whole issue with Slaughterhouse. It was bad. It was really bad, man.
Yeah, it really was. But I think, and I speak this from a personal perspective, and and I don't want to, like, I know we live, so I can't verbatim say it, but in life, sometimes when you walk in a storm, y- I said that earlier, sometimes when you walk through a storm, you don't even, the person beside you making your storm much lighter, makes the storms much lighter. It's just something about like if you got somebody, if you in a fucked up thing, and I guess that's why God created relationship, Adam Eve per se, it makes it way less difficult because even the girl I talked about when Proof died, me and her really not on good terms, but she was with me. and she was my girl. We lived together and everything, and I don't even know how I could have made it. And you speaking to a guy that me and her really not at this time. We not on good terms, but I don't even know how I could have made it out of that storm when Proof died if it wasn't her being around and having my back. So I say that to Joe, he would always be taking pot shots at Paul and different things, but he didn't understand the level of the introductions that Paul was helping in his career get to a certain level and get through certain doors. So when he would be quote unquote, and it's all public, I'm not talking about no behind the scenes stuff or stuff that I don't feel comfortable elaborating with me being a dear friend of Paul, but I'm talking about what's in the public. I'm looking, and once again, if I didn't know Paul Rosenberg and I didn't, well, I met Joe like for a cup of coffee like twice or whatever. I mean, I'm just not for coffee, but I'm saying I'm in terms of I'm just being, not literally, but just like shaking his hand or something. I would say that Joe should be kind of grateful of giving, you know, of Paul doing certain things to him because it's certain people per se, it's certain artists in Detroit that would have loved to been signed to Shady Records. And he has this opportunity to have a platform of being on Shady Records. And it's Detroit artists that some artists, some people hate my guts because they're like, man, Mark, you fat piece of shit. Man, you could have helped me get on Shady Records. You could have did more. And I'm looking at Joe sitting at a top echelon rape record label like Shady Records, and kind of like talking publicly about behind the stuff things that he shouldn't talk about in public. It's certain artists that been known M for years when M when M was in the salad days that didn't get a shot, but per se Joe Budden got a shot. So I think he should be very grateful. Not to say he isn't or isn't, but I'm just saying some people, and I'm not alone on this. It's a lot of people that feel the way I feel. Like, dude, you up here talking shit and you up here like, man, dude, Slaughterhouse is on, man, Slaughterhouse is on Shady Records. He had a premium hip hop, he had a premium record label. He on Interscope, and you talking shit, but it's some artists that stood by, that was open up for him, who knew him back before the Eminem explosion, and they didn't get a shot. And about Crook was Slaughterhouse more talented. That theory. We could have a 24-hour conversation about that. So who knows and who cares? But you got to look at that from other people's perspective of that.
Right. But like getting Slaughterhouse on Shady took a while too, because everybody had to get their record situation situated, right? And what happened was, I know that they were saying that Joe had signed to Amalgam Digital at that time, and he denied it. He said that I didn't sign that contract or whatever. They forged my signature, and then it came back that it really was that he signed it, though, So it was like a whole thing that this came out later when Slaughterhouse fell apart, of course, that it was revealed by the group members that this record contract situation was very difficult.
Well, man, come on though. But this now let's stop here. Cause I wasn't, like I said it. I've had some issues. Just not like I said. I've only maybe shook the man. I've probably been in his presence probably like 20, 30 seconds or something, right? But I wasn't the biggest fan of Joe Budden. But you got to remember, that's Joe Budden. Joe Budden brand is chaos and all this stuff. From the love and hip hop. That's what we love about Joe Budden. And once again, I give Joe Budden the ultimate props. His brand is a entertaining brand. That's why his platform is so, the Joe Budden podcast or where that's how he's mesmerized. So I take my hat off to him. That's Joe Budden. So all of that stuff, and that's why when he was talking it, I'm laughing because that's just that's the typical day in the life of Joe Budden.
What did you think when he said that he was gonna smack Bizarre in Detroit?
Oh, I said that. I said low blow. I said low blow. I said now that's where my alumni, when I seen that, once again, that was on I think that was on Twitter,
Yep.
X. Um I was like, no, that's you can't make those crazy excursions in this day and time because people Detroit, that's almost Detroit versus everybody comes out, and that is a real thing. And you can't be making those kind of comments. But that's a typical Joe Budden. That you know what? That's why I keep mentioning, just about the whole aspect of my guy Rob Love, my guy Rosenberg, but I didn't like that. And me and Bizarre till this day, I talked to Bizarre, he has my number, I has his number. We sometimes talk or text, or he invite me to different things, and we talk about, we run into each other on different events, and that's still my guy. But that's alumni. That's still, we part of the Shady alumni, if you will. And I didn't like that. And other people didn't like that because you're not gonna come in here and I know maybe Bizarre made a comment or whatever, or whatever. I don't remember the exact comment, but you can't.
What
That
happened
that
was when Joe was dissing M about the album and stuff like that, and then Bizarre came out and said that Joe was disloyal after this man gave you a second chance in your career and everything like that, and then you go and do this, right? And then that's when Joe was like, oh, respectfully, I will slap you in Detroit or yada yada. And then I think Royce even called Joe and was like, stop. Like, this is not like good, like
right, right. Yeah, Joe just be on some bull. Joe just that or Joe just Yeah, that's the type of stuff I didn't like. And I think his follow-up, maybe he did a follow-up or something that I was like, okay. I'm like, all right, wow. But I do, yeah, I really wasn't rocking with Joe at that time. But I do wanna, but then to give him props, he brought the sign on. Him and Royce, well, it was through Royce, but he brought the sign on just to have like Royce come and hang, and he gave the sign some advice on stuff, and maybe they linked. I mean, they did link, and the sign did tell me it was a pretty, because I was almost like, what did he say? When the song was like, nah, he was pretty cool, and it was very, he liked the whole Joe Budden experience when he went to the studio. When we went to Joe Budden's studio.
I think that like someone like Joe had unrealistic expectations when signing to Shady. Like, do you not know like what to expect when you sign to a label like that? Like, he was like, how come M didn't bring us on a world tour? How come M wasn't like more around or involved or something, things along those lines? And it's like, come on, like you should already know how M operates just from watching from the outside. Like, he's gonna be focusing on his career. He's gonna do certain things like produce for you, give you features, like little stuff here and there. But like, he don't even tour like that. Like, like so.
Yeah. But once again, he put that out to the world. And
Right.
so you're gonna get some pushback on when he makes those kind of comments.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that Paul managed Cypress Hill, DJ AM, Blink 182, Exhibit, and Alchemist. Did you do any work for them?
On the outer skirts of no, because at that time when he was managing Cypress Hill, I was managing D12. So man, when you management part at that era, you had to be real stringent. I I I mean, you had to be always kind of like correlate like the Jerry Maguire. When you have to management in them time, I don't know how it is now because I do like light work, light consultant man. I'm talking about very light, like tuna fish sandwich light. But back then it was a 24/7 days. So I didn't do promo at that time. No, I did not. For any of the actually named Cypress Hill, DJ AM, they didn't really need promo. He didn't. His life was cut so short.
So tragic, man.
Yeah, so tragic. It was wow. What was your name?
Blink 182?
No, not Blink. No.
Exhibit.
No, not Exhibit yet, because that was in the prime of management. Because we were on tour. That was when we was on the Anger.
Alchemist.
No, I do. Man, I did work for, not Alchemist record label, but it's been certain independent albums that he did I've worked on, but no. But shout out to my boy Said Louis. He was said he was part of that whole Alchemist, Bodie James. He was one of Bodie James' original managers. So sometimes I did little light work, consulting work with that. But yeah, shout out to my boy Said Louis.
Got you. All right, man. The ICP beef with Eminem over the flyer that M was advertising the show back in the day, saying that, this was before he blew up, before the Eminem explosion, the way you like to put it, right? He said ICP may be there at the event, and that's what started the whole issue between them two. Do you remember that? Like, what happened exactly?
Oh, man. Big shout out to ICP. Big shout out. I might have said this in one of my other interviews. Now, my experience, I gotta steal the spotlight for 1 minute. I was being an intern with Sean P Entertainment, the guy who helped me get in the music game. I was being an intern, and he was doing a party, like just a regular party at a like a club. And all of a sudden, I look at the door, and I see this white guy with a big ass like mail bag. And it was full of cassettes. And then, because they wanted to get in free. It was the parties where, you spend $10, or back then maybe $5 to get in. And they didn't want to pay. And I seen like this older white guy, and he had a big bag of cassettes. And then I see these two little white kids following him. And we were in a black area in Detroit. I'm like, what the hell are these guys doing? And at the time, which I knew, it was Alex, who was their longtime manager. He had the big mail bag cassettes, and it was Dog Beats. They was promoting this song Dog Beats, one of their first cassette singles, and it was ICP. Of course, they didn't have no makeup on. They were just out, and they were part of that school what I talk about. It was very, because back then you had to have balls to really put records out or be an artist. It wasn't like you didn't have TuneCore where you could just spend $10. And I remember that, and I had always, man, forever, even during the beef, I always had respect for them. And back then, when you talk about marketing, I was one of the originators of doing like Michigan van raps in our region, like doing van raps. So I would do the Eminem, I would do the D12. I did the Bad Meets Evil with the Bruno Mars, the Bad Meets Evil 2 album. Like, I had a company that was part of my marketing company where I had a van and we did van raps, right? So with that being said, man, ICP fans always fucked up my vans. They put stickers on them. They spray paint them. So the beef is real. Even when I was managing D12, you would always see the backstage outside. It would be some clown makeup, the Hatchet Man. So I would just say, I don't think it was one particular thing that you're talking about. I do believe it was a rivalry, because now, and this goes back to your original question, M was a worker. M was a hard worker, because back then he didn't have the luxury of having a studio where he could roll in at 5 in the morning and work from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. or vice versa. So, but they were always out in the streets. You would see M like on winter days putting up stickers in Detroit, or like a location. So ICP was in the grind too. Him and them, and I believe his name is Alex, they were grinding. So I do think it was a rivalry in terms of that, in terms of like, just because then it wasn't once again, it wasn't like everybody and their grandma could put a record out. So it took a lot of tenacity and a lot of sweat to actually put a record out and promote it, like going to record stores, going to clubs. So I think that it was more like a rivalry. And once again, I was in that scene. So I know you talk about different Pacific time dates or events, but I just remember it was a rivalry, honestly. It was a rivalry. And it just
Well,
always
I heard that it was one of the more serious beefs that M was involved in, though. Like, wasn't there like a paintball shootout that like the 8 Mile movie is inspired by? Like that scene, isn't that like part of like?
it's a mix of a lot. 8 Mile, honestly, and once again, this ain't Mark Hicks inserting himself, but I 8 Mile was Paul and Eminem and Stuart Parr, which is one of the partners who was one of the executive producers. It was basically a love letter to Detroit. So it was a mix of all different aspects of people's lives, of everything in that movie. So it was some people like, oh, that's that part. You know, when you watch it and you came up in this graduating class, this school of coolness that we were a part of, it was more so a it was more so like a love letter. So it was different aspects. And I guess that's the question you're asking. It was different parts of that was so it wasn't a Pacific thing, but yeah, ICP, it was just a rivalry, man. It was a and once again, we didn't have the internet per se. We didn't have like all this social media aspect. So when shit broke out, it really broke out in real time, like real life, like record stores or different clubs being at. It was just a rivalry, ICP, Eminem. And then the fans kind of took sides. Because once again, back then, like, yeah, I could be a her fan or I could be I could be a whatever fan. I could be a Kendrick Lamar fan. I could just sit back and listen to him. But when you were a fan back then, you literally had to put gas in your car. You had to go and spend $10 or $20 for their music. You had to get you an ICP or Eminem shirt. So you were more invested, and that's what the music business is missing. I'm not gonna take a theory class on that, but when you were a fan back then, you had to be a committed fan because you had to like buy stuff. You had to like buy posters. You know, nowadays you could be a casual fan. Like, yeah, I'm a casual fan. I'm a casual fan of this kind. You know, I'm a casual fan of this. But no, you had to be committed because that's where your pockets were. Because you were actually spending money. You wasn't just buying a $10 subscription on on Spotify or Apple. You know, it's kind of like that's kind of like being a summertime fan. But then you had to be real fans. So yeah. So that's where that whole rivalry came. I just consider that rivalry.
Mark, I think you being a little politically correct because there's stories about these Eminem shows, or there was one particular show where there was a fan that came in an ICP shirt and M stopped the show and told the crowd to carry that motherfucker out. They lifted him up and threw him out. And then the guy came backstage. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, bro, I'm telling you, no, I'm saying the exact opposite. Yeah, that shit, it was a rivalry. It was motherfuckers who literally, like, man, we did
Well, rivalry makes it sound a little more friendly though. Like it was real beef though, right?
dude, Russia, Iran and USA, they have a rivalry. I don't think that, when I say rivalry, I don't mean it like
Okay.
lighthearted. I don't mean it like
Not
Ohio
friendly
State,
rivalry,
Michigan.
right? It's like, okay.
Yeah, you said it. I never said the adjective
Okay.
friendly. No, I'm saying rivalry is because, dude, I'm telling you, man, when we even did one-off shows. One-off shows mean, you just go into a city and do a show. Or if you're on tour, man, it would always be somebody like backstage. Not no, they didn't get backstage. Well, maybe one or two at times they snuck back there. But it would always, man, we would be doing tours. We did that when we did the anger management first tour with Limp Bizkit and all of that and Exhibit, man, every time we pulled into the tour bus, look to, they call that load in, do the sound check. it would always be 2 or 3 people dressed up like ICP juggalos. Juggalos was everywhere. They would be standing out like just, of course I'm wearing my Michigan shirt. Speaking of Michigan, shout out to Michigan for winning that chip for us. But it would be artists. I mean, I'm sorry, it would be juggalos like follow us everywhere. Like sometimes even at a hotel. Man, we would be in fucking Portland, Oregon, and we would be fucking in Kitchener, Ontario, or fucking Montreal, and these motherfuckers would be. It was a cabal of them motherfuckers. Yeah, so it wasn't. I'm not saying that lighthearted. Trust me.
Got you. Okay.
And I said before you made that statement, dude, them motherfuckers, them juggalos cost me so much fucking money. They would literally spray paint my van wraps. Said like I had an Eminem Encore van. And we would be outside a club, dude. These juggalos would be putting them Hatchet Man stickers. Sometimes one time they spray painted the Hatchet silhouette on my promo van. So I'm a little fucker. Cost me so much money. What could I do? Go to Geico and be like, oh, my van got harassed by by some juggalos. I don't think I never made a claim. We just had me or one of my crew team. We just washed it, hot water, washed it off, or fucking stood out there and scraped it off or whatever.
Yeah, because I mean that skit on the Marshall Mathers LP, the Ken Kniff, and that's just so nasty, bro. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, the blowjob, the fake blowjob shit, whatever, yeah, all that stuff, and then the whole like Slim Anus, damn right, Slim Anus, I don't get fucked in mine like you.
Well, part I don't know if you've seen some of the videotapes of the concerts. We had a blow up doll that was part of the concert. Did you ever go to one of the concerts back then? We had a custom made blow up sex doll, and it had a clown face. I don't know where Paul and M got that. It was specially ordered made. It was a blow up doll. Maybe you could see it. I don't know if we used it on the Up and Smoke tour, but I know during the tours before, maybe with the Warped Tour. Like I said, I might be wrong, but I mean some of the tours we had it was a blow up ICP sex doll. Yeah, we threw it in the crowd. It was a lot of them made because it was hitting. You see what I'm saying? It was. I think Emmett Paul made like 30 or 4 of them, or 40 of them, or something.
Didn't Proof squash the beef between M and ICP?
Nah.
Yeah, there's a direct quote from ICP from Violent J that says, Proof was on a mission to end all of M's beefs. That motherfucker showed up at our office, came in, spit a verse on our shit, and we went to a bowling match with D12 that night and got drunk as fuck.
That's something that Proof would do. Dude, I'm telling you, Proof did so much. And I'm not trying to get on this Proof tangent, but Proof he really took that literally how he would be. He really was one of the souls of Detroit and tried to make things right with everybody. He was cool.
They said that the problem with the beef was that it didn't involve them. It was the crews beefing all over the city.
Shit, not all over the city, all over the country. I mean, the world, man. Those ICP motherfuckers are crazy.
They got a cult following for
honestly, sure. Yeah, they had a cult. Oh, very much so, man. Props to them. I ain't trying to start no beef with them, but they are a cult. You gotta respect them. You gotta respect them, man. But honestly, they were really smart. Which one? Violent J? Which one? Yeah, I think Violent J, man, he's a brilliant businessman.
Yeah, the other one's Shaggy Too Dope, right?
Yeah, Shaggy was, but I believe Violent J is yeah, man, he's a smart. I know some people that we had mutual, and the moves they were making. I mean, because sometimes when we were like, when we were like in the early parts of D12, we would be making business moves like at record stores. They would be doing crazy. They would say, man, how is our shit like we was in competition with them? And not even on no fan rivalry shit. Cause one of our it was a store like a Sam Goody merchandise, and we had this shirt. We might have talked about it in our first interview where we had this shirt. Brittany sucks, Christina swallows. It was a D12 shirt, and it became like the number one merchandise for like a couple of weeks at like one of the store. I'm talking about a record chain like Sam Goody. Like Sam Goody used to have like maybe 800, 1,000 stores across America. Maybe to make that mean maybe like 500 or 600, and our shirts were selling. The whole situation is ICP has never been like corporately, like they never really had like a major deal. If they did, it was maybe for a hot cup of coffee very quick. And they would be selling as much merchandise as us, and we had Big Brother. We had big corporations, and they would be hand in hand. And come to find out, like Alex and Violent J, and I don't want to shine light on. Shout out to Shaggy Too Dope, but those guys were like the brainiacs. Those guys came with concepts, and man, till this day, you see, I'm in Michigan, you see those Hatcher stickers. I see them everywhere. Or I'll be down in Austin, Texas. I'll be in South by Southwest, like fucking eating a taco and have nothing to do. I mean, this is far removed. At the time, I was with my artist. I managed Drew Parks, and we would be like in fucking Austin, Texas, at a hotel, and we would see the parking lot would be full of 2 or 3 Hatchet stickers, Hatchet Man, the running Hatchet Man stickers. So yeah, man, those boys got down. They were marketing geniuses.
So do you remember when the beef got squashed between M and ICP though?
No, that might have been like during the time I wasn't managing. I was at I was doing consulting. I was doing independent consulting work for Shady Records.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, because I don't remember. What did he say that in the in Champtown documentary? Because I remember they did like a thorough. Didn't Violent J do an interview in that Champtown documentary?
He said this on Drink Champs.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
What do you think about some of the other early Eminem beefs, like with rapper Cage, that Proof got involved with? Because Proof jumped in that too and started dissing him too.
That was his everyday. That was his. Now, when I say that rivalry, a lot of those was like friendly rivalry. And that's like in our last interview, which you guys should, the fans should check out, or the subscribers. Thank you guys. Man, all those, now I could add an adjective to that. Those were friendly rivalries. It was artists, because we in hip hop, man. People got to know the origins of hip hop. Hip hop is going at each other crews, so that was friendly. So them Cages and all them stuff, those were like just friendly, just lyricists going back and forth with each other.
So you don't think that the Cage one was serious at all?
I don't think so. I didn't know why you got. It wasn't no like fights or nothing.
No, I don't think so. He just said, when I dropped this solo shit, it's over with. I bought Cage's tape and dubbed over it, and Proof said the same line on the song "What" Part 1.
Yeah, man, that's just friendly rivalries. I think this morning that 50 and Marlon Wayans, or one of the Wayans brothers, they was beefing with each other they was beefing tough they was beefing real bad on Instagram and Twitter. And they seen each other last night at a concert or a comedy festival, maybe at that Netflix comedy festival. And they were like, you thought they were the best of friends. Just say, man, what's up, man? What's going on? Yeah, I like that. I think that's like hip hop. Not to say Marlon Wayne. Well, yeah, I guess they are.
Yeah.
In the hip hop culture, but it's just cool. You let off some steam on Instagram, your girl pissing you off, and yeah. Because I know sometimes, man, with my girl, I had to stop that. I had to have a talk with myself because I noticed, man, I got a lot, as me being a businessman, I got a lot of different things I'm involved in right now. And I use Instagram for that talent, Mr. Hicks. I use Instagram for from some of my business ventures. And I notice when I get pissed at a certain girl or a girl or something, I'm having a pissed off days, I turn into Mark the Troll because some of the shit I couldn't say to the girl, or I gotta keep political, was the girl, I'm seeing or whatever. And then I just become a troll. That's one of my secret. That's one of my secret keys. I just become Mark the Troll. And I use my dummy. I'm not a rocket scientist. My dumb ass. I use my official page, and I make like the Kanye one. It's a couple of them, and I'll be looking on my page. I'll be looking on my Instagram. My behind. Or what they call it, my behind the scenes. I'll be like, I'm up here trying to do this, and the motherfuckers is commenting, replying to my comment on some troll shit I did. So you just gotta watch. It's just friendly. It's just letting out steam. Maybe 50 was having a problem with his girl or something, or Marlon Wayans. And so some of that, go back to your original question. Some of it is just friendly rivalry.
Well, when I interviewed Necro, you know Necro, right?
Yeah. Well, I used to no, I can't say that. When I talk about my management company, we for a moment we brought on a guy by the name of Henley Halen, and at the time it was kind of a partnership where he was managing nonfiction and we was managing D12, and we kind of did a joint venture. Like we did a merger of our resources, especially in New York, where me and Rico was going back and forth. So basically, Rico, Henley, and we did kind of a joint venture on management. Because once again, it was nonfiction was very huge in the underground scenes that I'm talking about this time. And he managed the Beatnuts. And we managed D12, and we did some partnership. We did some partnerships agreements. But why I bring that up is, of course, Necro is all basically family with one of the members of Nonfiction.
Yeah, his brother, Ill Bill.
Yeah, Ill Bill. All right, shout out to Ill Bill. I gotta catch up with him. I ain't seen them in a minute. But yeah, Ill Bill. So we kind of like did some aspect, and we kind of like, I don't want to say consulting. That might be a strong, glorified consulting back then through Henley and the whole Necro movement.
Got you. Yeah, so when I interviewed Necro talked about this time where he was at Fat Beats and he ran into M, and M asked him, "Hey, have you seen Cage?" Because Necro had produced Cage's like most popular song at the time, right? With Agent Orange. And he said that M said, "I'm looking for Cage. I'm looking for him." So he made it seem like it was a lot more serious. Like he really wanted to put hands on Cage. Man, roll the clip.
The first thing he says before I give him the beat CD, he's like, "Yo, are you still cool with Cage?" And I was not cool with Cage at the time because he had beef with Cage. I was like, "Nah, actually, I don't fuck with that dude." He's like, oh, okay, because I'm looking for him. I'm going to bring it to him. Said something like that. I was like, whatever. You know what I mean? He didn't really look like he was going to bring it to anybody. But like he didn't look hard. Pause. He looked kind of soft.
Well, hey, man, nobody in this crew, now I got to take up for just the alumni family. M ain't no hoe, man. M go for his. It's been earlier time. M ain't no hoe, man. M got like that you think he always, back in them days, as M says, Proof was just the de facto leader, just in the term of charisma and what we know. Proof has always been a networker, but M wasn't no hoe. I mean, M would go for his. He wasn't no. I don't know where people be putting out this. oh, he's from Kentucky or what's that bullshit? And Kentucky is some real motherfuckers too. Shout out to
I think they said
Kentucky, but
Missouri.
wherever they
Didn't they
said,
say Missouri?
yeah, Missouri, yeah, Missouri. I'm fine. Yeah, and you know they come like, oh, he wasn't from Detroit. Nah, man, him was a real. He was a real one. He was, hey, and it's so, man, what we don't get nowadays is hip hop. Once you was in the hip hop culture, you could have been green, pink. It was an embracement of people, embracing the culture. And that I think that's missing nowadays. It became more tribal. So, well, yeah, it's very more tribal now. Cause you got motherfuckers who are just Kanye fans. And I think a lot of them are Nazis. I'm not even going there, but it's when you was back then, if you was part of hip hop and you could kind of we could tell if you knew hip hop or you didn't know hip hop. And it was so I know, like, for proof, myself and everybody else back at that time, it wasn't like, oh, you white, we ain't fucking with you. Nah, man, Eminem was a very respectful guy in the hip hop culture. Very under respectful. I mean, he really was humbled by hip hop culture. Yeah, so I don't,
So
I don't know where all extra come from.
all right, now this next one though, I really am excited about your expertise because of your history in the game and everything like that, and your appreciation for hip hop, right? What did you think of the whole Eminem versus Melle Mel situation? Just because of his stature of being a forefather in this hip hop thing, and then like to put M in a position, pause, where it's like it was a lose-lose situation in my opinion, because for M, it's like he loves hip hop. You know he loves Melle Mel. He respects Melle Mel. But at the same time, it's like I can't just let you diss me for no reason
That's
and not say
hip-hop,
anything.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was a bad situation where I felt like now those that don't like M see M as dissing Melle Mel. They're like, oh, you see, he's a culture vulture. He coming in, he dissing one of the forefathers and stuff like that. Not taking the whole scope of it. Like, come on, like you're not gonna let nobody just talk about you and you not say anything, no matter who it is.
Well, man, it goes to the fact of, cause correct me if I'm wrong. I need a little bit of cause so much shit happens in in our culture. Melle Mel came out dissing him first, right?
Exactly. But Melle
Yeah.
Mel has always been very opinionated in interviews and stuff. He's gone at Jay-Z.
Yeah.
He's talked about like everybody, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, he did say some like real kind of disrespectful stuff about M.
Well, I have to stop myself. I have to be a bitter. It's kind of with your question. I got to use the term ambivalent because on one side, this right now this is happening in our Michigan music scene because people of my age bracket, they hate the Rios, the Babyface Rays, the GTs, and just the new roster of music. And I'm amazed by it. I love it. I embrace it. And I come off to, off camera, not off, well, just talking to my friends. I'll be like, dude, you guys are coming off bitter. Some of the guys, like from my age range and even guys under my graduating class, they come off like, they look at Peasy and some of the new rappers. I can't understand that. I can't understand that. And I have to like kind of I have to come a receipt. There was times where Prince, and I love Prince. Prince is probably my mom. My mom's not around no more, but Prince is one of my mom's favorite artists. He's one of my favorite artists. But it was a time, man, the Prince Roger Nelson, he chastised hip hop. You guys don't know how to play music. You guys don't know how to play band. He was coming out Earth, Wind, and Fire, and guys that I could name that your young subscriber wouldn't even know. They used to think of like my class of rap as trash. You guys shouldn't even call yourself musicians. How can you call yourself musicians when you don't know how to play a guitar or you don't know nothing? And they didn't understand that because of the school systems, they cut out a lot of music class, like, like learning to play the clarinet or learning how to key or to play a piano. That got cut out. So we had to use, double deck cassettes. People won't even understand what I'm saying, but they don't. In order to make a beat, we had to like take a double cassette player and sample. That was the original sampler before the other samplers came into play. And they didn't understand how we love music, but we had a different way of loving music through hip hop, samples and double cassettes, making music, break beats, beating on lunch tables. So Melle Mel he came off to me, and this is just Mark Hicks. He came off bitter. He came off like, dude, you didn't evolve. Or you should have been like MC Shan. MC Shan, he was part of that. He was kind of sort of part of that graduating class of that hip hop. And you know what he did? He went out and got an artist by the name of Snow. He got this white reggae singer, and he got Snow, and he became a multi-millionaire. He embraced the culture. What people don't know, I'm not trying to be Professor Hicks here, but how the automotive industry started. You know how you see those movies, and some kids don't even know this, but you see those horse-drawn carriages with the horse in the carriage and the madam in the background, and the stagecoaches. Those companies, when they found out horses, they turned those horse carriages into automotive. Like the creator of General Motors, William Durant, he started off as a horse carriage creator. The Chryslers and all those guys, they made they made an evolution into being a horse carriage maker into an automotive maker. And Melle Mel just didn't make the transition. And I think every respect, all those guys from Grandmaster Cass and all those guys, they're respectful. I appreciate, and they are the founders. But as a man personally, they didn't make an evolution. Like part of my promo company, man, I'm so glad I went from, and I gotta, pat myself on the back. It was I went from, as a kid, making, my company started off from street records, hip hop records, and I was a part of being a consulting of, it was a development called District Detroit here. And I was on the urban side of, I was a major urban consultant of this big, we doing a whole revitalization of downtown Detroit. And through the powers that be and my friends, and I had got an opportunity to be one of the launchers and one of the helpers of bridging that gap. So I'm thinking, I'm sitting at this event I threw. And it was a big wine and cheese event. And I'm sitting there, and people don't even know what's on my mind, but I'm sitting like, yo, I went from putting up stickers and as an intern writing skating tickets, for the promo company I was with, and all this crazy stuff. And now I'm helping, put together and orchestrate a District Detroit event. Now, the reason I bring it up, and you bring up Melle Mel needed to do an evolution. And I don't know all his business. Maybe Russell Simmons hired him as a consultant, or he got money because he had to eat. But I think that he didn't if you don't embrace it, you can't evolve. And I don't believe some of them guys, I'm not just picking on him. I dare say I pick on Melle Mel because I believe I have much appreciation to him. But some of those guys that I see, they didn't evolve. And first you got to embrace to evolve. Myself personally, I'm done with that in my life. I had to talk with myself these last couple of days, like, Mark, you got to embrace You losing this and you got to evolve into something else. And if you don't do that as a person, you're not going to grow and you're going to become bitter.
Right.
And so that's what I think about that. Because, I mean, the questions you're asking, they're great questions, but really it gets down to not about the opinion, but it's like different cycles of life they're having problems with.
Yeah, because he was criticizing the fact that M was rated so high on all these top 50 rapper lists, and he was saying that the reason why was because M is white. That's why he's rated so high. And then he released a song going at M, like questioning his legacy, his status, and everything. And that's when M responded on Easy Mill's song, The Realist, right? Which I was like, come on, couldn't you let the young boy shine on his own song? Like, you had to take over the whole conversation because then people weren't really talking about the song because of Easy now. They were talking about the song because of the diss, you know what I mean? It was like, come on, M. You know?
Right.
But it was weird because then Melle Mel eventually had put up an apology on Instagram, but then he took it down like right after. So it was just like, why did you do that?
I think some people talk to him. I mean, dude, it's almost like that where you see your boy fuck it up and he's wrong and you try to have a conversation with him and you like, oh man, it's not working. You know, your thought process is not working. And it really just comes off as bitter. Man, that's so it's kind of like it don't look right, man. It don't look right at all. Cause you see how like Grandmaster Flash, he was like doing stuff for Chris Rock, I believe, and he kind of made a smooth transition, do tours. And I always see Melle Mel as like he just kind of got left. It was some decision choice because he did some questionable stuff. He did some, but I know he got to put food on the table. He was in the boxing and all of that, and that's not questionable, but that's crazy. I mean, we going through this right now in hip hop. Artists are not selling records and making money like they. And you got these streamers like Casanat is fucking making a killing, and I Show Speed. I mean, those guys are like sitting there just hanging out on a stream, collecting fucking crazy bucks. Like, wow, it's an evolution.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. Were you present during the In the Club video shoot in LA when Suge Knight showed up with like 50 dudes?
No, I wasn't there. No, I was not. Why wasn't I there? No, I was not there. I was managing D12 at that. Something,
Because Proof
I
was
wasn't
definitely
there.
there. D12 was there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe Rico was out on that trip because we would divvy up. Like I would stay home and I down business, or he would go out. We was back and forth. Yeah.
They said M came out with the bulletproof vest on, ready to get busy.
Yes.
Do you know who Reggie Wright Jr. is?
Yeah, I heard of Reggie Wright. Yeah. I watched the show sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the head of Death Row Security back in the day, and he served like as president when Suge went to jail and everything. Right. Shout out to Reggie. That was like one of my first interviews ever was with Reggie Wright Jr., right? And he spoke about at the 1999 Source Awards, Death Row.
Wait a minute, did you do that? Did you do that with Reggie Wright and Choke No Joke or something?
No. Oh, no, okay. It was just me and
boys.
Reggie. What?
Ain't Choke No Joke and Reggie boys?
I don't know.
No, I'm messing with you. They bitter enemies. I fucking with you. You always fucking with me. No, they bitter enemies. They bitter enemies. Reggie and Choke are bitter enemies. Right. But no, what were you saying? Go ahead. I just want to mess you out.
No, I was saying that when I interviewed Reggie, he spoke about the 1999 Source Awards where Death Row confronted Eminem.
Right.
Were you there?
Where Death Row. Wait a minute. The Source Awards, what?
Yeah, in 1999.
Impossible. Suge, what? What did he
What-
say?
Well, let me tell you what he said, right? So he said that Death Row confronted Eminem and Reggie actually stopped it and said M had nothing to do with it. He said Jimmy Iovine's assistant, Dean, was with M during the confrontation and he looked at Reggie like, what's going on? And Reggie said that Suge actually always liked M. He never had any issues with M. He thought M was a funny guy.
Right.
He said M wasn't scared or anything in the situation, but he was like maybe caught off guard, like what's going on. Man, roll the clip.
It wasn't even about a beef about Dre or anything. It was just go there. Now they saw him and they knew it was a problem, but there was this dude named Dean that was an ill assistant that was, well, actually it was Jimmy Iovine's assistant, but he was with him. And Dean looked at me like, Reggie, what's going on? Like, what? I was like, nah, we can't do a Dean here. If he was by himself with just him with his bodyguard, he might have been some problems, but it was Dean. And Shig ain't never really had no problem with him, to be honest. Shig always liked him, to be honest. He always said he was a funny guy. And so he always kind of liked him, to be honest.
What was Eminem's reaction when he got approached by all them dudes?
He was just looking, he didn't say nothing. It wasn't like he was scared or shaking or nothing, but he was just like, what's up? But Dean jumped in the middle, and they saw me, and once Dean knew, he saw Reggie, he knew it would be all good. Cause Dean, they knew that I was only a peacemaker, but the more importantly, Dean know that I needed him. But that was my key to get to Jimmy whenever I needed to.
So did he look relieved when you called them off?
Oh yeah, hell yeah, they would love to stay down. Shit, oh yeah. But I don't care. Shit, if it would have been 20 of M people around me, I would have been like, what the fuck, I might have acted a little tougher and tried to talk my way out of it. But shit, deep down inside, okay, you see 10, it wasn't that many guys. It was 10 or 20 of us sitting in the auditorium, but it was probably only, Pooh Rider was definitely one of them. There was only about 3 or 4 of them that jumped around there and he was about to do something bad to him.
Gotcha.
But fortunately, they were listening to me.
So he didn't say anything. He just walked off.
Yeah, they just kept walking. After I told them, go, they good, they are. They just kept walking down the aisle.
But the Source Awards, because, God, dog, the Source Awards in 99, man, I really got to think, because M first album, I remember we were all happy. It came out in February of 99. And that summer, M got on the Warped Tour. M was doing spot dates. And so I'm
The
trying
Source
to
Awards in 99 was in August too.
And that's one that I gotta really, I know I can't think about it on camera, but I remember M was so busy because for one, that was first time like M was starting seeing money, right? Because he comes up, he came up, he didn't come up with a silver spoon. And at that year, M was super busy, and he was super busy because, hey, How My Name Is was breaking records, Guilty Conscience was blowing up, and M was just staying. He just was like, hey, him and Paul was like, hey, we whatever we take, we gonna take. We gotta get this. Cause we don't know. Hey, this is our doors opening. We're about to come in and snatch some shit. And I just remember 99 was so busy, man. Like I said, M got that, he was on that Warped Tour, and that was like 2 shows a day. Sometimes Warped would be 2 shows a day. And then that summer was crazy. And sometimes I would be on that tour. Like I would make a appearance, because Proof was the hype man on that tour. With he was part of the Eminem show on that tour. And I remember we did a couple of holiday shows. Like we did that was when the 99, but 99 making it into 2000. So everybody was tripping about that operation where they thought the clocks were gonna go back and all of that crazy stuff.
Right. Where they were even saying like turn off your computer before the midnight, right?
Yeah.
Before the
And
Y2K.
what was happening? Yeah, Y2K. Yeah, and we were in New York. It was only a small litany of us that because M did a show at, they had reopened 54 Club Studio 54. And we had went there. M did a show at the studio at the Studio 54 show, and that was crazy. It was really just a small army of us then. D12 didn't make it. It was me, Proof, of course, Eminem, Paul. He lived out there. We were in a small force, so I don't even remember. Like, my God, I'm trying to really remember. During that time, I don't even know if they did the Source. I think they did do the Source Awards. I think.
Let me tell you this though, okay? So he was up for New Artist of the Year, Solo Artist of the Year, and he lost to Lauryn Hill.
Okay.
His former bodyguard, Big Nas, spoke about the confrontation as well in an interview with Cam Capone. Shout out to my guy Cam Capone. And he said that the confrontation did happen at the 1999 Source Awards, but his version of it was that he got involved and he stopped it.
Okay.
He didn't say anything about Reggie, but he said that he was there and he was like, what's going on? You know, but he said that at that Source Awards, M presented the award to DMX. And I think DMX won best live performance or something like that.
Okay. I can see that. I can see it, but once again, different days and times, they all came together. So like, man, every day it was something new and something new. I mean, it was so fucking much going on at that time, man. Everything. Now, I wasn't around because honestly, we was just getting the D12 movement together at that time. So we were like just, and it's so funny you say that because that's when in August of 99 is when I formed a management company with Rico. Because I was looking through some of our old records and some of our old corporations. I believe that was August of 99. So basically we were at home getting the whole D12 organized in business. So I know I wasn't there. I know nobody really, and we didn't really have a budget to really like go out. It was, man, everybody was on the grind. Everybody was just start seeing money at that time.
Were you there at the Vibe Awards in 2004 when Dr. Dre got punched and all hell broke loose?
No, I was not there. You know, I lost some of because you know the music business is about budgets. And when you work in record and when you come into the promo side of stuff, you stop the flights and the per diems and the hotel rooms. Most of the time that shit stops. It stops. So during the 04, that was when I was back doing consulting work and independent consulting work. It's not like I was on payroll. So, I mean, I was, you know, I was as a contractor worker. So it was like a 1099 kind of thing. It wasn't a W-2 type of thing.
Right.
So yeah, I was not there at that.
That was such a crazy situation. And then especially because of, you know, Young Buck and him getting charged and everything. That was nuts, man. Like, I don't know, when was the last time we saw something crazy like that happen on TV?
What? You got to remember, so much shit was happening. At that time, man, I got to admit, man, I was in love during that time. I was in love during that time. So that 04, I was like, oh, my dad died in 04 and I was in love. And dude, I kind of checked out of the world, you know, with those two things happening. To be honest with you, I ain't gonna bullshit you. I know it happened and I followed, you know, we had of course we had the internet during then, but it was a certain aspects I don't even
You was in a different realm at that time. I get it. I get it. Can we get a little bit of a timeline after Proof's death, like what happened with D12? Because the album D12 World was released in 2004. Didn't they have tons of songs recorded they could have still put out like after Proof's death? Like what?
I don't know if you got. I don't see. I wasn't managing then. I wasn't. I was on the promo side of things. I mean, but D12 was talented at that time. You know, they had D12 had it wasn't soup kitchen time. D12 was a successful group when Proof died. You're talking about after Proof died, they were a multi-platinum act. They had 2 multi-platinum albums. They had successful tours. They had paper, so they all could make separate albums. They could record, but then M would call them in like, "Hey, let's record." They probably had some stuff, but I don't know, man. It just maybe they didn't feel it was right. I don't know if they had, and I'm speaking out of term here, but I really don't know if they had a lot of designated Proof verses with D12 when he died. Now that might be something I don't know, man, because I think they would come together because it was almost like 6 chefs that was cooking elsewhere, and they would bring what they got to the table, and they would bring lyrics. Even back in the Devil's Night time, they brought stuff together, different. They pulled stuff from their own personal projects. They put it together. Hey, this verse might go this. So that's how it was. It was it was like a group. It was like what teams do. They bring stuff together. They bring the best out of what they got cooking, and they at their kitchen, and they bring it together.
Because I'm wondering, like, how is it that 20 years later now we have a new D12 song with a Proof verse that we haven't heard and stuff like that? Like, why wasn't that used so many years ago?
Oh, well, you talking different now. You talking a different dialect. Proof recorded all over I mean, man, it's hundreds of proofs verses everywhere.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, couldn't they have put something together like after he had passed away? Because like after he passed away, right? Like what we recognize from D12 is like 2008 they put out the mixtape Return of the Dozen Volume 1, and then in 2011 Return of the Dozen Volume 2. Then they're like going on tour with Slaughterhouse, and Fuzz Scooter joins D12 again, right? And then there's like the whole situation where he's cool with them, and then all of a sudden he starts dissing M like on Twitter, I think, and then like he's not with D12 anymore. So like it was just kind of a weird situation.
Yeah, man, that was some wild and crazy times. I think it was depression. It was depression, public sadness. I think sometimes we like God knows, like when we talk about my different bouts, just going through different things. If I was on public and I had a mic, I'm somewhat like notarized and in just like the industry I'm in and some aspects of it, of doing shows like yours. But I could imagine artists like a Bazaar or the Nine have to publicly deal with missing one of their bandmates and one of their friends, and then you still got to go on stage and do this. Oh, I could imagine that would be hell. Um, I don't know, man. But speaking of that, because Proof got like 400 or 500 verses out here. Man, Proof got verses for days. And then some people like are holding on to them for cash. They thinking they're gonna hold on to them for the rest of their life, and their kids are gonna keep it as like some fairly family heirloom. Like M is gonna do a clarion call. Say, hey, anybody with an Eminem verse, I'm giving out $1 million per verse. And I don't know if that's gonna happen. It may happen, but some people hold on to Proof verses like it's a family jewel. They do. There's people out here that just hold on to their verses. I swear. I can't even count how many people I know who got verses, but um they're not gonna give them up. Matter of fact, it's a guy that I don't want to rattle them, but it's some people that just passed, and I know they got verses, and they took them to the grave.
Wow. That's crazy, man. So, like, we know that D9 left D12, Bizarre left D12, and now it's just 2 members left of D12, right? Do you know what happened exactly? Like, it's just like they.
Oh, I couldn't even guess, man. I was, it was a respectful thing, and that's what I brought up. And I was speaking for myself too. Sometimes you gotta let go. I don't want to never be like D12 format manager. I don't want that to be. I don't want that to be like on my what do they call that, epitaph or something. I don't want that. I just wanted to be like I was a record man. And as me being a record man, I take a project and I leave it in a better place. I think what I did for Biggie, Coolio, Eminem, I think that I did my contribution to take a project and make it better. So if that record was at 102,000. If Mark Hicks helped it get to 108,000 or shit, 200,000 as a record man, that's part of our record man principle. You take something and you make it better. I was just on the phone with one of my guys, AD. He's a great guy. He did what I did in San Francisco and in Miami. He's down in Miami now. We had like a 2-hour talk about that. And we just record men. And so when you get into the intricacies of like artists and they vibes and all of that, that would be like that would be like wow. I don't know how I couldn't even like jump in and tell about it. Now I did see maybe a Bizarre interview like a while ago. Maybe on, was it Vlad? I can't remember. And I think Bizarre touched on.
It was either on Vlad or probably Bootleg Kev.
Yeah, and I seen something, but I was like, oh, but then again, that's Bizarre's perspective on it. Or that's his perspective on that. You would have to have, it's like a car crash. The person who got hit gonna say something. The person who did the hitting, hey, you slowed down and you put your brakes on. So I couldn't even answer that question in a million years, man. But I think, I believe, this is just me. I believe once a brotherhood, always brotherhood. So they could, like, maybe legally they could say they left the group to expunge themselves from lawsuits or different. And once again, I don't know. I don't know the whole. But maybe they did. But I guess a brotherhood will always be a brotherhood. I don't. Yeah.
I imagine though it's so difficult to be in a group with like a mega superstar like a 50 Cent, like a Eminem and stuff like that, right? Like it comes with its challenges, and because you were a manager, I'm sure that you ran into like some of the difficulties of those things.
Well, all of them guys, which is great, all of them guys thought they were, not thought, they were all talented. We brought it up, Key, I know that sounded redundant about the last interview, but man, all those guys were great, man. All those guys thought they were, all those guys, and when I say thought, I'm not trying to be funny, but those guys were great. And man, I love that. And I learned that from my mom. 'Cause one time my mom was at a parent teacher conference and she was pissed that my teacher was like talking shit about, basically my teacher was like, oh man, he tried to be funny and he tried to do this. And my mom was like, she was like, that's your fault. She was like, I gave you an honor A+ student and you give him a C. She was like, that's your problem. She was like, my son got the honor roll and he did this and he went up to he went to a seminar at Oakland University about science, and I was sitting there, I was like, for a minute I was like, Mom, who you talking about? I didn't say that, but my mom was hyping me up, like, she was like, bro, she was like, I gave you an honor student. And I go back to D12. D12, all those guys, they never doubted themselves. And that's what made them them. And that's what we was talking about, how Proof was a catalyst for the community here. Like, yo, you great, man. You good. Proof would always hype up a person. And so D12, it was never no downing. It was never nobody like, I don't know what their term, like nobody was never like in self-doubt. All those guys really thought, and when I say thought, I'm not being, they were great. They thought they were great. And it was just, hey, M caught on well, hey, we up in the echelon. So it was never no head down. And of course they knew because of M sold more records as a single artist. Yeah, he thought he thought they were, they knew that, okay, M is going to get more money because Marshall Mathers is selling more. And then we dividing up into like, our pies were so crazy divided in terms of all the members. But no, D12, they never had no loss of confidence. They all were high esteem.
I'm not talking about like their confidence, but I imagine when you're not getting the same kind of response like from the masses as like, Eminem, because he's the looked at the main character and stuff like that. Like that has to like affect you somewhat, like, damn, like I think I'm just as talented, or I'm pretty up there at least, or I deserve more of a response or something like that. Like it has to be difficult too, because M cast such a big shadow, man. Like,
yeah, but I mean, they too was grateful. They were grateful. They understood that M, getting on with Dr. Dre and different things, and they were grateful.
Right.
Because in life, all you got is a shot. Because it could have been fucking Mary J. Blige, or it could have been fucking RZA could have said, "Hey, Swift, I'm gonna produce your record." And I mean, it could have been so many different ways, and they knew that M took M always sees the opportunity. He sees his opportunities, and at that time, he was really seizing opportunities. I think now M lets the room can breathe. But it was a time, man, with the whole 50 and the era of Eminem when he was just on fire. I mean, he was taking all the oxygen out of the room, not just for his boys, D12, but he was talking, he was shit. He was hot as cayenne pepper. Not was, but at that time, he was just movies, groups, all of that. It was crazy, man. He had a historical run.
Right. Did you get to go on the Up in Smoke tour?
Yeah, I was on that tour. I was on that for the
man.
Yeah.
What was that like, bro? Like that's like one of the most epic tours of all time.
Man, I just didn't take advantage. I mean, we were like, everything was kind of like,
your balls were dry on that tour, huh? You was fucking everything on that tour. I know you were.
Yeah, but you're living in and I'm not trying to steal valor, but it's almost like the army, the theater of war. You're like, go, you get your bags packed. If you got a girl, you kiss your girl. Okay, baby, I'm gonna be gone for a sec. But when you actually like fly in and you check in at the hotel, and then it just becomes a movie. It comes like, cause you always, one of my quotes, and Proof always he always used to say it. He stole my verse. I like, man, you always gotta have your head on a swivel. I was like, Proof, you always gotta have your head on a swivel. Have your head on a swivel. And when you like literally you fly in, say like you fly into LA. you fly in, you fly into LA and you get a cab or you get a limo, you go to the hotel. Everything, it becomes a movie. And that's what I'm saying about that whole Crip stuff and all that. Because when you walk into the hotel, you're very cognizant of what's going on. Because it wasn't a rodeo for none of us. And thank God that my promo experience hopefully it helped transcend some of my buddies that were in this game. They kind of knew, because Proof would sometimes be with me when I had artists in town before the Eminem explosion. So they kind of knew, and it's not all on me, but it was we were kind of used to the lifestyle. So you see, okay, why is 3 guys sitting in a Marriott with blue on? You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? You're in a Marriott in the some suburbs of Denver, and you see 3 guys with some all blue on. You kind of know what looks out of place. So the original answer to your question, you already know is you already got your head on a swivel, no matter what. I don't care who you are. You got your head on a swivel and you see stuff and it goes by quick. Now, the last time I was on a quote unquote tour was the last show M did, like the last open show was the Dubai, Saudi Arabia thing. And I'm telling you, man, it was so fun, like it was a lot of groupies, maybe because of Dubai. That was my first time in Dubai. It was a lot of groupies. I mean, it was very, because it's a different kind of rules of law. But just seeing it, that was, I took it in. I could literally, since I've been on this health kick, I don't drink how I used to drink. And so I could have a cup of coffee in the morning, get a nice hearty breakfast, walk around the town. It was like I was living slow motion. But back then, you talk about the Up and Smoke tour, the anger management, even little parts of the Warp tour. Man, everything was. It was just. It's literally like you are in a movie. It's almost like somebody drinking a pop and popcorn, and you are actually in a movie. Some shit is always gonna happen. Something is gonna happen. It might be a problem with production, or you might gotta go 20 miles to go find a needle of a vinyl. It's so much stuff happens behind the scenes. But yeah, you do have your royalty of having different ladies comfort you in the night. So that's one of the bonus parts, but so much stuff happens on the road. I'm sure all your other guests have said saying the same songs I'm saying. That's not like an oddity what I'm saying.
Well, but man, come on. Like, what was that had to be like one of the most talented lineups, right? For a tour ever. The Up and Smoke tour. That's crazy. You have any crazy stories from that tour?
Well, the tour with the last time that the cane, the elevator, the girl in the cane, that happened at the Dallas Up and Smoke. That happened at the Dallas Up and Smoke tour.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, that was at Dallas. Shit, man. It was just so much. It was what you all expect, you could expect. And then you had to really watch it. And this is another part of what people don't forget about touring. Sometimes on the tour, you have your people who are married. Because you remember, Ice Cube been married since for what, 80 years?
Right.
And he had his family. So it's certain pockets, and then certain artists, they don't get into the bullshit, and they'll be in another hotel room. So you might have your one. I hope I'm not giving up trade secrets, but you might have your hotel for guys who's single who want to have a good time, and then you have your other hotel where it's more official and stuff, and you ain't gonna be in the mess, and you don't want. And you got 2 hotels because you don't want, like you might have a situation where he's traveling with his wife, and you don't want your wife like, oh, he doing all that shit. I didn't know Tracy do all that shit, and all of that. So you got to really watch the perimeters of everything. So you got that going on of every parts of a tour. So it's so much stuff work, but you do have work. When I say it's a movie, man, sometimes you worried about your road manager, because being a manager, your manager is gotta watch everything, but then you got your road manager, maybe a hotel room, a credit card bill, maybe some luggage got lost, or maybe all type of different film crews. So it is a work, and it is a staff. So it's not like, hey, you just sitting back with a bowl of potato chips just partying. No, it is work. But you
Right.
you make saying fun though. But just sitting back and saying, wow, that was something you sit back and you say, wow.
Man.
Yeah.
Did you go on the anger management tour?
Yeah, the first one. Yep, I was around for the first one.
The second one is when DMX was on it, right?
Well, I believe Paul and M, because at first, Fred Durst and Eminem owned intellectual properties of anger management. Then, and I could be wrong, and I will get corrected. Then M brought the rights to anger management. And that's because, at first it was Limp Bizkit and Eminem headlining off and on. One would depend on what city it was. So on the anger management too, wasn't it 50 Cent? Yeah, you know what? How many anger management was it?
I think there's 3. I think 50 was on the third one.
The third one, that was when Mex
If I'm
was
not
there, because
mistaken.
50 had everybody. 50 brought MOP, he brought Maze. I remember they had tour buses. Like 50 went crazy, man. 50 spent a lot of money on anger management.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about, because they have different legs of the tour. So I guess they said the second leg of the first tour, right? DMX was on there with Godsmack and
Man. So it wasn't 3?
No, what I'm saying though is like the one that I'm referring to is because anger management tour took place in 2000.
What year was
2000.
what year was that?
2000.
2000?
Right.
No, that was not 2000 was the first one. That was the one. Yeah, that was
Right. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you is that the anger management tour in 2000, right? The second leg of that tour, DMX was on.
Oh, but that was overseas though, wasn't it?
It was, let me see.
No, man, I think that was overseas because I did the whole anger management tour. That one, that was always Papa Roach, Exhibit, Limp Bizkit, and D12. That was the whole tour of that one. That second leg, I think that was the Europe one, the Europe version of anger management.
No, it says here, December 19, 2000, during the final show at Limp Bizkit's hometown in Jacksonville, Florida, DMX came out to perform an a cappella sing-along to one of Limp Bizkit's songs during their set.
Eminem wasn't on that one though. That was I remember the last anger management show was the day before or the day right before Thanksgiving, because we all was on a flight and we had flew out of Disneyland. That was the last one. Maybe Limp Bizkit did a reiteration on the 19th, but I know the last show was like in Anaheim, California, like December, like a day or two before Thanksgiving, because we had just got home for Thanksgiving. We all flew out. And I remember that cost us dearly to get on that. Some of us even had to fly first class to get back home for Thanksgiving.
It said DMX was performing from November 24th to December 19th of 2000.
Yeah, so I'm saying, I think that maybe, man, I gotta look that. No, but I'm saying M wasn't on none of those dates.
Oh, okay, got you.
I don't believe M was not. No, I believe we all came back home for Thanksgiving, and maybe Limp Bizkit had another. It was probably another reiteration of that tour. But I bet it was DMX and Godsmack, and just Limp Bizkit.
It says Sinistar and Toe in Limp Bizkit. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering then, like, what that interaction between M and X would have been like if they were on the same tour together.
Nah, man, that was we was trying to book it home. That reiteration, like I said, it was yeah, cause I think even Papa Roach, I want to believe Papa Roach, some of them guys was on our flight back, or some of the band members were like, they had girls and stuff in New York, because I don't know where Papa Roach originated from, but yeah, that was the last day of that reiteration. But maybe Limp Bizkit like wanted to make some, because we knew by that time everybody wasn't on good terms, Oh, and I'm just saying the whole Limp Bizkit and that. So maybe they had already did something and maybe called it something in that manner.
What do you make of all the controversy over the homosexual lyrics that Biggie said, even though it was comedic? And then there was the whole tranny in the music video talk, and people try to attach it to the Diddy and the down low and all that stuff.
Man, I do know that me being around Biggie, I'm saying and being in this, he had a wicked sense of humor. Literally, he had a wicked sense of humor. So when man, he was so intelligent. I mean, literally, he was really intelligent. Like, and this is me. Like, was I his childhood friend? No, I was with him for a whole week, going around Detroit and just getting to know, just going to, and just shaking hands, kissing babies. He had a wit to him, and that's back when that's back when social media wasn't around. You really had to grind out and be in a city and really promote, and then promote. And I remember, but I never caught no weird vibe from Biggie. I mean, I never did. And about the whole transsexual, but once again, motherfuckers gotta really know the game. When an artist, okay, say like they sing, what was that? What was that one? Big Papa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big Papa. Yeah, you shake. Okay, yeah. Big Papa. Okay, they say that's the single. You got to go into the promo part, and we got to find a date to release the Big Papa. Then the director got to send a video to treatment. Whoever video treatment, they get awarded. Then we come up with a budget. We say, okay, we got back then it's probably like $300,000, $400,000 for a video. The production company that got awarded the treatment, how they gonna do the video, they gotta go hire the staff and the cater for the food, the cinematographer. They gotta do all of that. So it's not like it's plausible that like Biggie can say, I want this transit video, but that's done by another company. The artist comes in, do the video, and that's it. I mean, I don't get how they thinking it was all orchestrated, like Biggie picking this person, that person, even Puffy for that matter. But I just don't get how that's kind of a weird situation about the trans and all that. Now, was that officially a trans person in that video?
I don't know, but I just remember like people made it such a big deal that like everybody was covering it, like talking about it. And I don't know, I guess maybe it's just glorification and that we do in hip hop media coverage now. Like everybody just likes to talk, and it's like stuff that you would normally talk with your friend about behind the scenes, but now everyone does it like for everyone to consume, so maybe that's
Right.
it. I don't know, but everyone made it such a big deal, and they tried to tie it to like that line on Me and My Bitch, where he said that, you look so good, I'll suck on.
But it was a kind of a lot of that. Man, it was kind of a lot of questionable hip hop lyrics. Not in in defense of Biggie, but it was a kind of a lot of weird. MC Light had some crazy stuff. Crazy. I never caught that. I just remember fun time. No, I don't get that, man. But it's so many times how that theory can be shot down. And most all artists back then didn't get paid for videos. It was almost like a chore. So they wasn't gonna be sitting back, man, because you didn't get paid. Especially you with a big record company like Arista. You ain't get paid. They like, motherfucker, we trying to promote your record. You want to see some more money, you want to see some more royalties. So all of that, like the intricacies of, hey, you gotta do, hell no, man.
I don't think Biggie was gay by any means, man.
I don't think man, I know this gonna sound crazy, but I'm an empath. I haven't got a degree in it, and your fans do it, your subscribers, but it's a certain where it's an energy, and I take in energy, and literally I can know when some shit is going down. And I've been really, some of my the hypothesis has been real, and I never caught that vibe from I never caught that from Biggie. It's been what even you're saying. It's the people that have been that made whole other crazy comments
Right.
about some shit that I ain't want to. I don't even want. I'm not going to bring up. So, man, he was nah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Mark. Man, I just want to thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to say to the people before we go ahead and wrap it up?
Well, go blue. I wish this shirt would have been iron. They probably gonna crash on me about this shirt not being iron. Now up north heat coming soon, working on it, and we gonna do some. Me and you got some stuff we gonna work on. So yeah, man, we just working, man. Up north heat coming soon, and I'm not even gonna really talk about they'll though. I'm not even gonna mix the Eminem vinyl up. That's just a business venture I got. But after it's done, I'll come on here and tell the story about that.
Yeah, most
Okay, we're gonna
definitely,
tell the
man.
story about okay.